Okay, this is Rose Munoz and calling the meeting of May 24th to order at 4:33. Are there any public comments? No? Okay, then we will go ahead and adjourn to closed session. Hello, good evening. I'm Rose, President of the School Board. I'm Rose Munoz, and we are starting the meeting now at 5:49. First of all, from closed session, I'd like to report that the board took action to approve the final settlement agreement dated May 16, 2022, and general release between parents and district in student versus Santa Barbara Unified School District Special Education Due Process Case, OAH, case number 2022-031000, pursuant to which the district has agreed to fund and provide educational services to the student, and the student's parents have agreed to release claims against the district in exchange for educational services as specified in the agreement. The board voted unanimously to approve this agreement. And another board business, we'd like to note that we didn't approve any administrative position from that. So now we'll go ahead and open the meeting with an announcement about language access.
Good evening. We have Spanish interpretation available. We have headsets in the back if anybody would like to listen to the meeting in Spanish. Muy buenas tardes. Tenemos interpretación al español disponible para esta reunión. Si alguien gusta escuchar la reunión en español, tenemos audífonos en la parte de atrás. Y también tenemos interpretación disponible por medio de Zoom. El enlace está escrito en el orden del día y por ahí puede tener acceso a el enlace de Zoom. We also have Spanish interpretation available through Zoom. For those watching remotely, we have interpretation available. And we also have ASL interpretation available. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Maldonado, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Please rise and place the flag. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, if you'd like to give us your report, please, Dr. Maldonado.
Thank you so much. I'll now continue with my superintendent report. And good evening once again. I would like to start this meeting with a moment of silence for the tragic events that have taken place today at Uvalde, Texas Elementary School, which are unconscionable acts of violence against children that we never hope to happen in any community. So I'd like to have everyone please take a minute. Thank you. And thank you. I know our hearts go out to their community. Board members, it's been an exciting couple of weeks as we wind down the school year, going to award ceremonies, going to peak graduation events, seeing the culmination of a year's worth of work for so many of our students, teachers, and administrators. To begin with, I'd like to start by asking Ms. Tiffany Carson, our Coordinator of College and Career Readiness. There you are, Tiffany, to come up. She and Trade Art invited me to come and judge some of our students' amazing work, our woodworking projects that you see here in front of you today. I did that along with Tiffany and a couple of other teachers and others in our community a couple of weeks ago. And it ended up culminating in a celebration called The Big Show. And she will talk to us more about it and also add a little bit about other incredible career and technical education programs that we have here in Santa Barbara Unified. Thank you, Tiffany. Welcome.
Good evening, Superintendent Maldonado, board members, students, families, community members. We have a packed house tonight. It is my distinct pleasure to talk to you today about career technical education in Santa Barbara Unified. Many of us come from a time when career technical education was known as industrial arts or vocational education. So when we speak about CTE, often I think that old lens is what we have in mind. However, career technical education has been quietly undergoing an evolution, a revival in the past 10 years or so. And I'm so excited to talk to you briefly about our programs tonight. CTE has become an essential strategy to helping students be college and career ready. It's not one, it's not the other, it's both. CTE programs are now built around essential elements that are closely monitored by the state, and CTE teachers develop their programs and curriculum to integrate academic core standards with CTE standards that are specific to their industry. CTE programs aren't just about teaching students specific skills, although students who complete CTE pathways are highly skilled, but they also provide the opportunity for students to explore their interests. Maybe they figure out, hey, I don't actually want to be a doctor after all, I want to go do something else. Or they help students practice critical thinking and develop other professional tools and abilities that will be useful no matter what college or career path they pursue. Our CTE courses are rigorous and relevant to industry and to the needs of our community. All of our courses are approved to earn students UC and CSU A through G credit, and many of our classes also provide dual enrollment credit and articulate to AA programs and transfer programs through Santa Barbara City College. In Santa Barbara, we have 18 different CTE pathways that serve 9 different industry sectors. And these industry sectors were all developed because of industry needs, economy needs that we see locally. Construction technology. Our construction trades cannot keep up with the work that is available for them right now. And Santa Barbara is one of those few places where you can grow to whatever sort of salary or artistry you want in the construction trades. We've got culinary arts. Look at all the hospitality. Look at all of the restaurants that we've got in our area. Arts, media, and entertainment, always very strong in Southern California. Health careers, we need nurses, we need doctors, and students who leave our health career programs can earn a CNA, a certified nursing assistant certificate by the time they leave high school. Engineering, entrepreneurship, information and communication technology, product manufacturing and design. And next year, we are going to have our first cohort of students in our translation and interpretation pathway, which is going to be a first for the state of California. We are going to be a model for other districts. We meet with our industry partners every year to advise us on skills and our curriculum development, and we apply for grants annually, raising almost $1 million or more in funds every year to make sure that our students are able to go on field trips. They're able to have internships. They're able to have the industry standard equipment that they need. And we've been working hard to make sure that our CTE programs are accessible to all students by removing our application process for most of our programs and expanding our outreach efforts with activities like the November Showcase. In CTE, we have been tireless. But like our visual and performing arts programs, CTE students and teachers were particularly impacted by the school closures of the COVID pandemic. Can you imagine teaching culinary arts remotely or trying to have students learn how to use a CNC machine or a lathe over Zoom? It was really hard. And yet our students and teachers are amazing. And tonight you are going to see just a hint, a tiny bit of all of the things that they have achieved. We've got some surfboards in the back. Our students are making surfboards and skateboards in some of our programs. You'll see furniture pieces that were represented, cutting boards, toys. And of course, this is only the CTE pathways that produce physical items, right? We have students who are in our teacher education pathway who are leaving us to go be future teachers. We have students who are leaving to go be software designers and other things. So you'll also see this is both junior high and high school programs are represented in the work that you see before you today. So you can learn more about CTE by visiting our website. If you're on the district homepage, if you go to sbunified.org/showcase, you can see and hear from each of the pathways. I've also put in a link to DP News, which wanted to highlight some of their work this evening. But CTE is best represented not by me, not by our teachers, but by our students. So we have some guests with us tonight. But first, I want to start with a quick video message from our DP Media students to the board who could not be here because it's their end of the year celebration tonight, but they have a quick presentation for you.
Hi, my name is Sadie Ukretz, and I am the Editor-in-Chief of the Dos Pueblos Yearbook. Welcome to Publication Design at Dos Pueblos High School. We are a diverse group of hardworking students who care about telling the stories of the year of our school.
Yearbook has really helped me feel comfortable with working my way around computers and cameras and just talking to people.
For the first few months, I didn't really have any friends as I came into high school, and so I was in the yearbook room every day because I had no one to sit with, and it was just really nice. Mr. Dent was amazing that he just let me come in here every day, and I still eat lunch in here every day just because I love the environment.
While we are waiting for the arrival of our 2022 book, we hope you enjoy last year's award-winning book, which has several really cool features. One aspect is that it features 2 covers to represent the chaos and uncertainty of the year. And another cool feature is that it is a heat-activated cover on the word scene, which shows the faces of DP, which is something never seen before.
Yearbook has helped me in high school just become more efficient overall because, I'm used to working with deadlines. I'm used to collaborating with a lot of people, doing a lot of research on my own. So I get to translate all of those yearbook skills into my regular school daily life.
I think the self-management aspect is going to be really good in the future because instead of someone standing over your shoulder making sure you work, you have to do it yourself. And that's going to be really helpful, quite frankly, whatever I end up doing.
Our student-led team has the opportunity to learn valuable skills, lifelong lessons, build friendships, and earn college credit, all while having a lot of fun.
So in case that wasn't clear, that was fancy with flourish. They have yearbooks for this year that they would like to give to the board, but they have not arrived yet, hence this video. So you will all be receiving a copy of the DP yearbook. But I also have 2 students here who are with us. So I would like to bring up Chris, who is a student at Santa Barbara High School, part of our Santa Barbara High School Computer Science Academy. And he's going to talk to us a little bit about his project, which we have up at the front. And after Chris, we have Xander with us. Xander will share a few words about construction technology at DP. So Chris, if you'd like to come up.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Christian Sanchez, and I'm a junior at Santa Barbara High School. And to the computer science field, there's a lot more to computer science than what we usually think of. I used to think it's just creating a game or something, but it applies to all fields, to many fields, and I'm interested in the medical field, and I was able to apply it with computer science by, for example, the project I'm showcasing today is a cancer data research analysis, and I was able to take data from all different states around the country and analyze it and represent it in a visual form as a graph, and how cancer, the dates and everything, the numbers, and by state, usually, like for example, California would be seen as a higher cases in the state, but that's because it's a higher population, and we have to make sure we can analyze it using the rates and the true cases numbers they are. And I've also been able to apply it outside of the classroom, and I'm currently working on creating a medical app. And I'm using all of these computer science skills I've learned in these classes using Python and other back-end as well as front-end work to create these projects. And yeah, thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Xander, with the construction technology pathway in the sense of woodworking. I started woodworking when I was about 12 years old in the Santa Barbara Junior High. I wasn't really looking forward to junior high. It was kind of a big step from elementary school to junior high, and everyone's always afraid of that kind of a leap there. But I found a teacher in the woodshop category who was very interested in my my dreams towards woodworking. Like, I was super engaged as soon as I walked into that classroom, because I was impressed at what we had to work with and what the teachers were allowing us to explore. I walked in, I did a few projects, I kept building my skills higher and higher. I was definitely hooked, that's for sure. And by the second year, I was doing pretty advanced projects. But I think the thing that really helped me was my teacher back then was he was really into helping the individual student when they found their passion. Now, lots of students will try construction technology, and that's what I want to show a lot, is I want more people to try it. Even if you don't like it, it's a worthwhile experience. Because in the end, you learn so many skills that you could use in the outside world, not by the actual physical building of your projects, but more by the creativity and what you have to think to imagine things. You don't just see a piece of wood and you're like, oh, it's just a piece of wood. When you really get it to click, you can see all the projects that you can create with that. And that can be used in so many ways in the future. So my big key component is I love woodworking. I know lots of people do, but even if you don't, you've learned a ton of stuff from just that one class. Thank you.
And I have to say that we could not bring Xander's project because it would probably take up most of the room here, which is a beautiful dining table that one of our favorites. So thank you for that. And thank you also. I'd like to ask the board members if you could just take a couple of minutes and just, I know you haven't had a chance to walk through and see the projects really quick as part of this, and we'll continue with a couple more announcements. And you have some comment sheets for the students and the teachers. So we'll just take about, and Ms. Carson, if you don't mind, Carlos and Ms., if you don't mind coming up and kind of sharing. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to ask Tiffany to just make a couple more announcements that we want to make sure you know about the industrial arts, and then we'll move on to our next part.
So students have work up here that they're not always willing to sell this work, but they are interested in taking commissions if anybody is interested in making particular requests. So if there's anything up here that you see and you like, let me know and I can help negotiate with the student. And the other thing is, as you walk around, some of the wood pieces have first place and second place tags on them. That is because those were awards that they won at the big show, where Superintendent Maldonado and I were there with people from Hayward Lumber and Buena Tool and DD Ford, and we were able to judge the student work. We didn't know who had made any of the work. We didn't know necessarily their grade level, but these are awards that students won that were judged by industry people who were very, very impressed.
Thank you so much again, Tiffany, for all the work you do organizing us. So next we have, we'd like to welcome Dr. Stanley Monroe, who's joining us via Zoom. As you know, he will be our next Assistant Superintendent of Elementary. Currently the principal at Ayer Elementary School in Fresno, has been the Superintendent in Residence and Executive Coach of San Diego State University, Executive Director at the Dallas Independent School District, where he focused and succeeded in aiding student achievement to meet standards for state assessments, a coach for administrators, teachers, and support staff. He has had prior experience in teaching and administration in Baltimore and Washington, D.C. A bachelor's degree of science from the University of Toronto, a master's degree from Harvard University in management, master's degree in school administration and supervision, teaching mathematics, and a reading specialist from Johns Hopkins University, as well as a doctor of education in educational leadership from San Diego State University. We know that you're going to be voting on his contract a little later, but we wanted to have give him an opportunity to introduce himself. Dr. Monroe, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Thank you very much, Dr. Maldonado, Board President Munoz, and trustees. Thank you for this opportunity to serve and work collaboratively with the superintendent, our board, teachers, staff, our students, and the community at large. I look forward to visiting each school and every classroom to introduce myself to the Santa Barbara Unified School District and just listening and learning from you. I am a servant leader at heart, and I really just can't wait to get started. So once again, thank you again for this amazing opportunity, Dr. Maldonado.
Thank you so much, Dr. Monroe.
Thank you.
Next, board members, you may have heard about our We Care campaign in collaboration with the Santa Barbara Education Foundation. And I could not be more proud to present this next plaque and award in thanks to both the Santa Barbara Ed Foundation, but most importantly, to Kenia Isaacson and George Julius from Jersey Mike's, who have provided lunch for every employee in Santa Barbara Unified out of the kindness of their heart, with nothing from anyone except them really recognizing the important role that our staff across the school district plays for us. So I'd like to have them come up. Actually, I should probably walk down to the podium.
Hello, I'm Kiana Isaacson. I am the franchisee of the Fairview Jersey Mike's location. I actually have 6 stores down in Santa Clarita Valley. And part of my success is obviously being involved in the community and being supportive of all of our teachers, our hospitals, anywhere I can really just fit in and help where it's needed. And so part of what I believe in is just helping our community and especially our teachers. So every year I donate 1 teacher luncheon to every single school, and I look forward to continuing that.
Thank you so much. And I want to also recognize Aaron Shugart from Santa Barbara Ed Foundation, who was also instrumental in this endeavor. Thank you so much. Thank you. And last, board members, we want to end with our employee recognition of employees who have been with us here for 30 or more years. We have a few present. I'm going to ask them to come up. Dr. Becchio is actually going to come up to the podium and call their name with Ms. Peak. And if we can put up our slide with their names, please.
Okay, so this is great that we're actually doing this following the presentation by students. So none of this happens every day, but it also happens in other classrooms, and none of it happens without the staff to support our students. So I'm really honored to be here because these staff members not only do this every day, but they've done it for 30, 35, and 40 years. So we're going to be honoring employees who've been with us for that long with service pins. When I call your name, I'll have you come up to actually over to where Miss Peak is, and she'll have a little something special for you. Elizabeth Brooks from Adams and Elizabeth Rodriguez from Adams. Elizabeth Brooks, will you wave at us? 30 years. Elizabeth Rodriguez, please wave at us. 40 years. Wow. From our early education and support program, Ana Bertha Omeda and Penny Rankin. Ana Bertha is 30 years, Penny is 35 years. From Elementary Ed Services, 30 years with the district, Tricia Polstra. And from Ed Tech Services, 30 years with the district, the one and only Ana Hernandez. And from San Marcos High School, 30 years, Mr. Kirk Taylor. And then with us tonight, also from Human Resources, the Director of Human Resources, 30 years, Ann Peak.
If I can have you guys kind of slide to the front so that we can have a meeting with the, a picture with the board members behind you, just, yeah.
And
Mr. Masuda will.
While we're taking the picture too, if I could, there were some individuals that could not be with us today. We'll go ahead and take the picture and then I'll finish. All right, and there were some individuals who couldn't be with us tonight, but I did want to finish with naming them as well. From DP High School, 30 years, custodian Mario Hernandez. From maintenance and operation for 30 years, Joseph Nett. From Santa Barbara High School, all 30 years with us, Martha Acevedo. S.A. Jordan and Maggie Light, also from Santa Barbara High School, 35 years, Cecilio Rios. And then from Santa Barbara Junior High, 30 years, Leo Borden. And 35 years, Sharon Myers. And finally, from Special Ed, 30 years, Sandra Anaya. Thank you all for everything you've done over the last 30, 35, and 40 years. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for so many years of dedication to our students. The last speaker, board members, is our newly elected student board member. You ready, Kavya? Who we voted in at our last meeting. Come to the podium, Ms. Kavya Suresh. Kavya, I know you're not going to be for a loss of words. We want to introduce Kavya as our next year's student board member, and typically we select someone and then the next meeting they get to speak. So Kavya, if you wouldn't mind, just a few words about what you look forward to in your new role when you take over after Mr. Kelly in July. Thank you.
Can you all hear me? Okay, amazing. Good evening, board and members of the community present with me today. I am so excited to pursue a new term of being the student board member for the 2022-2023 school year. I've had an excellent example, so I am not afraid to take some risks and make sure that we are trying to pursue activities that we might not have been able to this year because of limitations or because of, just this year's been a lot to say the least. And I know that we have our challenges and we have our difficulties, but I think the most incredible part of the Santa Barbara Unified District is that we truly are a unified community. We work together for each other, with each other every step of the way. And I think that's such a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I want to thank the board for being such a receptive and incredible group of people. You all are truly my inspiration. I look up and I see a group of powerful women leading the community, and it gives me hope and it gives me strength. So thank you. I also want to thank Dr. Maldonado for being one of the most responsive, understanding, and compassionate leaders that I know. I've never once felt that I couldn't bring a concern to you, and I never once felt ignored or invalidated by you. And again, seeing a woman of color and authority makes me feel validated and makes me feel ready to take on the world alongside you. Thank you again, community, for everything that you provided me, and I'm really looking forward to working with you all to make sure that students are at the forefront of every decision that we create and that we truly truly do prepare ourselves for a world that is yet to be created. Thank you.
Board member, this concludes my superintendent's report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Maldonado. As the president of the board, I want to lead off the board comments today. Last Thursday, the entire board, as well as many educators and members of the community, attended the State of Our Schools address presented by Dr. Maldonado, along with 5 student leaders from our high schools, including our own board member, Dawson Kelly, and our student board member to-be that will join us. Thank you. I was so proud of this group, not only because they were able to share specific achievements and accomplishments, but they were thoughtful and candid about ways we must continue to respond and improve and listen to our stakeholders and answer the concerns raised by the community. So for those of you who are not able to join us to be at that presentation last Thursday, I want to share with you just some of the responses and activities post-pandemic and post the teacher survey last fall. This district lowered all class sizes below the contract language for this year and next year. We raised substitute teacher pay to attract more help during the pandemic. We created $300 teacher spending accounts, financially covered the differential rate increase for teachers on medical and other leaves, extended paid summer school professional learning for teachers and built-in planning time, hired licensed clinical social workers, hired additional campus safety assistants throughout the district, increased the district's contribution for staff health benefit premium increases, designated a full-time substitute teacher to every school, purchased air filters for all classrooms and office spaces, even though this was not required as additional safeguards against COVID-19, established a plan to have district staff assist with substitute needs, continue to offer 80 hours of COVID leave after the law expired, ensured school site decision-making on initiatives based on student outcomes. The professional learning day in March was directed by the sites and not the district office. Teachers have had the discretion on how to use their PLC, professional learning community time. At the request of teachers, we moved Summer Institute to August, made sure we had teacher input and feedback for summer learning opportunities, did the same for professional learning of the campus application, tried to approve all PAL Day requests, provided 6 hours of professional learning for all elementary and secondary certificated teachers, adopted a new curriculum for our emerging multilingual learners, created a staff wellness menu of services in 2021 that has been available to staff for 18 months. This includes monthly mental wellness opportunities, counseling, discussion, and connection groups, mindfulness workshops, workshops for extra support with student behavior, psychological first aid training, and personal and professional trauma support. In addition to this, I think it's important to remind everyone of the investments that the district made with last year's federal funds. These funds were spent to provide an 8% salary increase over 3 years for all staff, to support summer school for elementary students and expanded at secondary schools, to hire additional counselors for secondary schools, and hire youth crisis outreach workers. Also to create a general ed behavioral specialist to support student behavior response. Our board has received letters from teachers at Dos Pueblos and Goleta Valley Junior High, and the board will seriously reflect on the thoughts put forward by this group of teachers to the extent that these ideas and suggestions are legal, reasonable, and within the purview of the school board. We want you to know that we do not ignore or dismiss the concerns and issues raised by teachers, and we will continue to be reflective and responsive, keeping the needs of students and teachers at the forefront of our decisions. Also, the board has scheduled a special board meeting on May 26, 22 to review Dr. Maldonado's evaluation and goals for 2022-23. Thank you. Ms. Sims-Milton?
Thank you, President Munoz. Thank you for that detailed report. Good evening, everyone. Glad to see each of you here. I'll just add on a little bit. I'll start at the comments with the state of the schools. It was inspiring. We see these student leaders there, and it just get a small representation of what our student talent is, as this is too, in terms of what we have in our schools, and definitely leading to the future as a comments as our newest board member coming in. So thank you for that. And in that state of the schools, each student had a call of action for us to do. Very clearly stated what they were expecting, what we can do, and how they were going to be a part of it as well. And so, from mental health to safety in our schools, all those things that came about, and it was a call to action to be our best selves. And so I'd like to extend that call to action as we're in these divisive times, we're tired, we're at the end of the year. So a call to action to be our best selves. And hopefully we're able to do that when we reset in the summer after all the things and people are exhausted. So let's really take into consideration what our students ask us to do in a call to action, and as we should do as we prepare them for the world that yet to be created. So please go on our website to hear their comments, what they had to say. They were very, very inspiring and gave good direction on what we need to do. In addition to that, I got a chance to see the Little Shop of Horrors at San Marcos High School. Awesome. I might just give them a hand. Yeah. It was great, and I got to see First Five at its best. One of the students there was part of the First Five. I'd seen him since he's probably 12 months old, so he's now a senior graduating. So he was the evil doctor, I think. But he's not that evil person, but he played really well. He was acting really well. So I just appreciated that. And that also said to me, our students are resilient, and they're looking for their best selves. And in the midst of all of this that's going on, they're rising to that. Again, that's a testament for us to be our best selves as adults that are supporting them and guiding and going through through what we need to go through, right? So, and then lastly, I'll just say that I was nominated as a delegate assembly to a California School Board Association, and I attended a weekend. They had us going from 7:30 to 5:30, so we were working really hard. And what the delegate assembly does is really make sure we're representing the interests of the local school boards versus policies that are going along there, and that's what's going on and how we can advocate here what locally is going on and bringing that to the broader assembly. I'm going to pass out some legislative priorities and also budgetary priorities that came up during that. And Ms. Hernandez, I will make sure that you get a copy of this because it also had to do with our budget. But it just speaks to the various important things that need to go on that we're dealing with in terms of extending the funding that needs to happen, about transportation. We know some of the challenges that are going on there. And in the legislative priorities, CSBA determines if they're co-sponsoring that bill or if they're just a sponsor of that bill as well. And there are certain things that are going on that for the local education Medi-Cal billing, when we talk about the mental health, there's a bill about how do we bill for that and make sure we can extend additional services, as we know that is just from the little folks to our grown folks to everybody. So how we can continue to make sure that that's at the forefront, again, making sure that we're providing that service for our students and our staff and administration. Also, there's one that I wanted to also bring attention. It was that the housing development school districts that may have vacant properties, how they can get through the bureaucratic red tape is what they were saying, how they can use their vacant property to provide school workforce housing. So that's a bill that's working its way through as well. And then we want to make sure that there's an increase, or there's call for increase beyond the LCFF, beyond that what we're getting, increase the base as opposed to more categorical funding and restrictions. So that's going through as well. And funding home to school transportations. We're starting to look at that. We know the challenges of that, be it testing the drivers or just finding drivers in general. So they're really, with regards to moving that through. And looking at TK facilities funding, looking at how we can expand to make sure that our youngest are coming in as we're making that mandate come in, and also how we are going to look at community-based schools, basic aid schools who are not getting additional funding for it to do that, but they're looking at how do we make sure that that happens in different ways. So again, Ms. Hernandez, you'll see that coming through. And again, the last one was COVID, the ADA relief. They wanted to provide the LEAs with one-time COVID attendance relief to mitigate fiscal instability caused by the pandemic and allow schools to emerge stronger. I know there are certain things that were allowed during COVID that now going back to that may cause harm in terms of the dollars that we normally would receive based on the data we would have normally received. So they're really moving forward with regards to that. And the last thing I want to say, Ms. Capps, you'll be proud of this, and I'll send it forth. In December 2019, the CSBA board came together about climate change. And so they formed a task group around that. And so we received a task group, a report around climate change. And it was good to see that we're a little ahead on some of the things that they're doing, but I'll make sure that that gets where it needs to get. And then I'll make sure that we get that out to the members of the board. So that concludes my report. So thank you.
That's encouraging. Thank you. So I just wanted to start by thanking Ms. Carson and Superintendent Maldonado for the report on career technical education. I believe I requested that maybe 6 months ago because I do hear out in the community, especially with this economy, how are we preparing kids for these new jobs and all of the ever changing? And so now we have it, and we even have a website and 18 pathways. It's just phenomenal to have this be presented. And for me I'm just grateful to understand it more so that I can be the ambassador to this incredible work that's happening every day, because we are preparing kids for not just a college path, but the both. And that was made very clear. So thank you. So I have a heavy heart, as many of you might remember where you were when Sandy Hook happened. I remember exactly where I was. I remember exactly where I was when Parkland happened. And I now remember exactly where I was today preparing for this school board meeting, now in a new role. Not new, but now as a school board member with this tragic shooting in Texas. 19 people were just shot. 18 of them were students, 10-year-olds in an elementary school, and one teacher who was killed protecting her children. So we're going to go through it again. I don't have the right words. I just have the emotion. I wanted to just be with my child tonight, but here I am doing this job, and you all are doing your jobs. All of these teachers who are here, I'm glad to listen to you. For me, it just puts some perspective around this challenging meeting ahead of us and the challenging work that we have to do. I was incredibly inspired by the state of the schools. Dr. Maldonado, what you pulled together was masterful, and the students gave voice and inspiration and this extreme call to action that made me think about things differently. And that's what we all need to do, is think about things differently. So I just want to proceed with this meeting, listening to teachers and staff, who I imagine are going to be speaking with us, with an open heart and acknowledgement that we are listening, we're not complacent, and we're all on the same team. We are all on the same team here, and we are trying to keep our kids safe. And it's really that fundamental these days, in this time in our history. It's a challenging time, and we all need to do our best, and we need to help each other do our best. So I'd be remiss if I didn't say that this tragedy today came just 10 days after the most horrifically anti-Black racist event that I can imagine happening in Buffalo. So here we are, and we're trying to make sense of things and move on and teach our kids and be supportive parents and do right by each other. And we're here to listen. That's our job. We're the voice of the community. And I take it incredibly seriously. Thank you.
Ms. Ford?
Thank you so much. First of all, I too want to express my deep sympathy and sadness for the families and communities in Texas that experienced this mass shooting today. The deaths of children and teachers is completely heartbreaking. I'm so concerned that we're just becoming inured to this terrible phenomenon, because in my early educator days, I know it was a long time ago, but schools were truly off-limits sanctuaries against this type of horrible and hateful violence. Earlier today, before this terrible event, I heard on the news that even though the US is just 6% of the world population, in the United States, we own 42% of the guns in the world. It really makes me wonder. I also tonight wanted to share some data with you, especially regarding board emails. As you know, this section of the meeting is really dedicated to board comments and is partly dedicated to board members sharing what we have learned or experienced in the community, including letters and emails, especially because we consider them a really valuable part of public comments. So of late, I have heard some comments, some numbers being quoted as clearly just guesses about board correspondence. So I decided to compile some of the data for you tonight. I guess I'm just a designated counter. So these emails, these numbers are from April 1st on, and I've done my best to compile them accurately. So board members, you may be interested to know we have received 154 emails since April 1st. And here's how they break down, especially in terms of big topic areas. First of all, the district response to COVID, both pro and con, we've received 22 emails, but that includes 9 interesting ones you all remember that are anonymous video links. We don't even know what they are. We have received 18 concerns in email about the implementation of co-seating, or also it's called universal access to learning. We've received 16 emails about concerns about excessive student use of technology, 16 emails requesting Zoom access to our board meetings, 12 emails concerned with leadership decisions. We received 34 miscellaneous emails, and board members will know that this includes concerns about equity issues, GATE, literacy, and EML needs, in addition to people writing us trying to sell us things. And we've received 36 invitations to events, both within the community and in our schools. That should be 154. So it's very interesting, I think, just to take a look at those. Also, as we look towards next week and the end of what I consider to be the longest school year in history, maybe not really, but at least emotionally, I want to share my gratitude for the work of the teachers, the staff, and the administrators. At the beginning of this year, we tried to move forward confidently and assertively that this year we would be back to normal, but there has been nothing normal about this past year. We know we still have a tremendous way to go to get back on track academically, and in terms of creating a safe and productive environment for both teachers and students. As been said many times tonight, we need to keep listening and communicating. And in the spirit of trying to understand how we can truly reach our goals, I strongly support exit interviews for staff members who have chosen to leave us, and also for us to make a plan to address many of the current concerns that have been raised of late. Thanks.
Mr. Kelly, would you like to share comments?
Yeah, thank you all for coming here today. It's great to see a full house. Shows that a lot of people care about what we are doing, and I'm excited to hear from all of you if you decide to comment. Thank you, Dr. Maldonado, for inviting me to the State of Schools and really giving this time to the students to share what they need, because that is who we are doing this all for. I'd like to share a little bit about my topic, which was the state of mental health in our schools. And just to start off with some statistics, so suicide is the second leading cause of death among people ages 10 to 24, and 1 in 5 13 to 18-year-olds live with a mental health condition, and it takes people on average 10 years to get the help they need once they are experiencing symptoms of a mental health illness. I think all of these statistics show that it is our school's responsibility to address and decrease these statistics. And I think a lot of the ways that we can do this is focusing on being proactive rather than reactive when it comes to our mental health education and our overall focus on mental health. So I have asked for more resources to be communicated to students, as well as mental health first aid being taught to teachers and being accessible to students, and really just focusing on preventing crisis from happening. So we are using less time and resources and less people are being hurt overall. Yeah, so that's a brief summary of what I spoke about on mental health. And then also I attended a student panel along with Kavya yesterday and a few other students to the admin of our district from junior high and high schools. And I thought I just would like to thank the district for giving students the opportunity to be listened to without any feedback, and truly just giving us the opportunity to tell you what we think, and seeing that you are actually taking our ideas into consideration when making policies that affect us. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. We will now move to public comments on non-agenda items.
Okay. Thank you. I will be calling you up. We have 3 minutes currently right now, and I'll be calling you up 3 at a time. So make sure you're making your way there and we can move through this expeditiously. First, I have Robin Selzler, if I'm announcing that correctly. Following Robin, will have Daniel Gonzalez and Sharon Jacoda.
Hello. My name is Robin Selzer. I'm a teacher at Dos Pueblos High School. I've been there for 20 years, 22 years actually. So I've served under the leadership of Brian Sarvis, Dave Cash, Carrie Matsuoka, and now Hilda Maldonado. When Hilda's arrival was announced, I was thrilled. Things unfortunately haven't gone exactly as expected. Let me be clear. I agree with what Ms. Maldonado stands for. I believe that she has excellent intentions. I know she works hard, and I know she wants to do what is right. Many good things have happened on her watch, including the state of the schools that was just mentioned. Unfortunately, this is hard to say, but I don't say it lightly. The evidence continues to mount that in spite of these positives, Ms. Maldonado's leadership style and practices have caused and continue to cause considerable harm in our district. I'm here to add my voice to the chorus that is calling for you, the board, to do your due diligence and to conduct exit interviews with those who have left, who have worked with Ms. Maldonado, to understand what's working and what is not working well here. We've lost some very highly dedicated and capable teacher administrators, and they are missed. Thank you for intervening before the inevitable consequences of administrative dysfunction further impact our students.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Hello, Board of Trustees. My name is Daniel Gonzalez, Organizing Director with Future Leaders of America. So I'm here to share our appreciation for the school board for following through with their commitments with A through Gs and seeing the importance of creating a college-going culture for all youth in our district. It's one thing to provide empty promises and platitudes, but it's another to do the work and actually follow through. I wanted to commend the school board for their hard work and dedication to the future success of our youth to increase access to higher education and address inequity in our community. FLA looks forward to collaborating more with the school board to ensure a successful implementation of the A to Gs as a default curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jacoda, and the next 3, get ready. Mr. Mark Alvarado, Ashley Cornelius, and Olivia Happel-Block.
Dear board members and superintendent, my name is Sharon Yegatka, and I am a mother of 2 handsome, wonderful boys. The last time I spoke here was before COVID, when hundreds of parents, grandparents, and community members expressed their obvious concerns with the sex ed curriculum. You passed it anyway with a packed house of opposition. Today, I am very angry with the education system. Over the years, my husband and I have watched in horror the indoctrination and sexualization of our children and the failure of reading, writing, and math being taught to our kids. Instead, you have allowed filth into our classrooms, into our homes, and the innocent, impressionable minds of my children, my children's friends, my neighbors' kids, and my friends' kids. You have undermined our homes and values. My anger is righteous anger, and I have every right to express my anger and frustration to you today. Board members, you have allowed this crap into our schools. Why? What's the purpose? Here's an excerpt from a book that our kids are reading in school at Santa Barbara High School. It's pornography. It's pornography. For years, my standard method of masturbation was stuffing a sock into the front of my pants and manipulating the bulge. This would evolve into hip thrusting while thinking of my latest gay ship. This is oral sex that our children are being taught in school. This is unacceptable. I am angry about this. Would you, Laura, allow your son to read this book? Wendy, Rose.
Ms. Jakarta,
Kate,
please keep your comments
would you
general,
allow
please.
this to be read to your children? Laura, you and I attended Santa Barbara High School together. Okay, did we read these books when we were in school in English Lit? We did not. These were not in the public library when you and I were in school. I expect more from you, Laura, I do. We went to school together. We were born and raised here. This is unacceptable. What happened to the classics we used to read? The Great Gatsby, Wuthering Heights, Pride and Prejudice, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Why are you allowing pornography into our schools? Why are they not being taught how to write a paper? Why are some kids not able to read? I had a little boy that I know. He was in 3rd grade reading 1st grade level. COVID exposed so much. He went home and his mom had to teach him how to read. You have failed our kids. Our children are falling behind in the most important subjects in life that will give them a future: reading,
30
writing, and
seconds.
math. I've had to hire a math tutor because the school did not do their job. I pulled my kids from the public school because you have failed my children and every other child. Not every family can afford a private school. They don't have the means to homeschool their child. Parents have to work. I speak to parents a lot and they are disgusted with the school system. This coming fall, my son will go back to school after months of homeschool because you've created a toxic environment for him due to all the mask mandates, vaccinations, testing, critical
Time.
race.
Thank you.
And critical race theory.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Alvarado, Ms. Cornelius, and Ms. Happelbach.
Good evening, Board. My name is Mark Alvarado, and I am the Community Outreach Coordinator for the Association of Rasa Educators here in Santa Barbara, and I'm also the supervisor of the Intervention Center at San Marcos High School. We are teachers and community members of color in the Santa Barbara Unified School District. We are an organized voice for equity, inclusion, and diversity changes within the district. We're also a voice that is often excluded within the broader educational community here in town. We have also experienced hostility within the Santa Barbara Teachers Association when attempting to develop a position of equity for our students and families of color. We remain committed to the SBTA in order to support the needed change for social justice in our schools. However, some of our BIPOC teachers have resigned from the executive committee due to the toxicity towards social justice. This has been an exhaustive experience and has led us to establish the audit chapter here in Santa Barbara. We want to remind the school board of their commitment for equity, diversity, and inclusion. We also want to highlight that there are other spaces where these critical issues are not respected and are often ignored, so thank you. We also believe measures for diversity, staffing reform will ensure greater access to leadership opportunities for Black, Indigenous, people of color, and all vulnerable people. These groups have been historically ignored, and we are encouraged by the direction taken by the superintendent. There is overt racism and white supremacy in our community. During recent public comments at school board meetings, we have witnessed with white members of here in town and of our community tone police and challenging one of our board members, Wendy Sims Moten. One person carried on about the district, quote, creating the next amount of gardeners, maids, and servant people. Just a bunch of illiterate thugs. This display of political theater and blatant discrimination exposes the MAGA mentality in our community. While there is a heightened need for continued work and healing between the BIPOC community and Dr. Maldonado, we believe that she continues to be unfairly targeted. Surely her male predecessors were never treated this way for the changes or the complacency they showed in their leadership. Lastly, It is violence when non-BIPOC educators and leaders are silent bystanders as women of color face race and
30
gender-related
seconds.
aggression. School board, move from being bystanders to upstanders. How would you want someone to show up for you? Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Cornelius, Mr. Happelblock, Ms. Gonzalez, get ready.
My name is Ashley Cornelius. I've been teaching here in Santa Barbara Unified School District for 17 years. The last 12 years, I've been at Santa Barbara High. I'm going to read some portions of a letter that we submitted to the board and Dr. Maldonado today. Roughly 50 teachers have signed this letter. We are writing again to express our grave concerns over the direction our district has taken since Dr. Maldonado's tenure began less than 2 years ago. Teachers and other staff members throughout our district sounded alarm many months ago. The message was clear. Dr. Maldonado is harming our district, our teachers, and our students. Despite the number of emails sent, meetings attended, feedback, and questions shared, all as attempts to communicate the pressing issues and needs at our various school sites requiring action for the sake of supporting our students and staff. The message SB Unified staff received in return from Dr. Maldonado and her board was, "We aren't listening," or perhaps the message was, "We don't care." Emails went unanswered, warnings left unheeded, excuses made, responsibilities deflected, and employees' voices diminished. We'll have no institutional memory left after this long list of teachers who are, administrators who are leaving. We will have no one left that teachers know and trust. We turned to our leaders for help when we saw the dangerous direction our district was moving in, and we were ignored. To make matters worse, a replacement for some of the best leaders we've now lost, Dr. Monroe, who has a reputation of intimidation and retaliation, has been hired by Dr. Maldonado. And I want to speak to that moment as me personally. I've reached out to teachers that have worked with Dr. Monroe over the last 4 years in his various positions, and they merely reemphasized information that is available through various articles that have been released. I spoke to teachers because I wanted to know people who worked for him and with him, and over a period of time, like, has he improved? Has he changed his attitude? And the resounding answer is no, he is not. And the fact that after us communicating our concerns about the leadership that is currently taking place, that was so ignored that you would hire somebody who is
30 seconds.
the same, is just bringing that same attitude, is just deeply concerning. And I think, well, thank you.
Ms. Happelblock, Ms. Gonzalez, and I can't really, it's Alyssa Cranes. Go ahead, Ms. Happelblock.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Olivia Happelblock, and I am a teacher at Dos Pueblos High School, where I have worked for the last 8 years. Over the course of the last 2 years, the school board and district have instituted changes in policies, procedures, and leadership that have done more harm than good for our students and our teachers. One such issue is the rapid spending of our reserve budget from $22 million to $8 million. Where has this funding gone? I know that it has not been used to purchase much needed supplies for our students, such as textbooks, since the district will not allow the schools to purchase textbooks that have an ebook component. You may be surprised to hear this, given the fact that one of the selling points for iPads when the district became a one-to-one district was the ease and availability of having digital textbooks for our students. When we were all sent into quarantine 2 years ago, we were forced to rely on digital copies and books since we could not physically get materials to a large number of students. But now, the district will not approve any textbook that has an ebook component attached to it because of supposed security concerns. There are multiple classes right now and planned for next year, including my own course, the IB International Baccalaureate Theory of Knowledge course, which do not and will not have a textbook because the district did not approve these funding requests for books from reputable publishers like Cambridge University Press. This board needs to take a discerning look at these top-down procedures and truly evaluate how effective you are at serving our students and teachers. I urge you to re-examine the teacher survey from this fall, read the letters sent to you this week from multiple school sites beyond the 2 listed earlier, and listen to my fellow teachers here tonight to bring about significant change in our district. We have been here at the district long before you all arrived, and we will be here long after you have moved on. Listen to us. Thank you.
Ms. Gonzalez, Ms. Cranes, Moni DeWitt. Ms. Gonzalez. Okay, we'll come back and come again. Alyssa Carnes, don't see her. Moni DeWitt. Following Moni DeWitt, Victor Corona and Jose Francisco de Verios. Okay, go ahead, Ms. DeWitt.
Hi, good evening, Board and Superintendent Maldonado. I'm here tonight because I know you all care about equity. We talk about it all the time, but it is inextricably linked to literacy. And if you've been reading the New York Times lately, you'll have read the article by Lucy Calkins, which explains a type of approach to literacy that we use here, which actually hurts the majority of students, the majority of our vulnerable students, and it's called balanced literacy. It's based on guessing at a word, and you never learn how to decode, which is take a word apart. Now, this is extremely dangerous to a big percentage, 20% of the dyslexics, the English language learners, the foster youth, and also the homeless, and anyone who has socioeconomic hardship will fail if you use this approach. And I know none of you want to do this, but you would actually be enabling inequity. And the chancellor in New York, Chancellor Banks, who you know, he's Black, he's an attorney, he's highly regarded, and so is the Mayor Adams, who I have a soft spot for because he is dyslexic. But they have put together lots of research, and the way to go is with the science of reading approach. We should also do automatic testing for everyone, because then it's proactive rather than our wait to fail policy where we don't help people until they hit that bottom 25%. We got to stop doing that because nobody will be reading by the end of 3rd grade. And this hurts our Black students, our brown students, and it also hurts those with learning differences the most. So I beg you, put this on the board and change this practice. It's damaging, and other people are doing the wrong thing too. There's no shame, but we need to change, and we need to be talking about this, and we need it in the media. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you. Mr. Corona, Jose Vitorios. Following that, Valeria Padilla.
Buenas tardes, miembros del Consejo.
Good evening,
Doctora
board
Maldonado,
members,
a todos los presentes.
Dr. Maldonado, and everybody present.
Soy uno de los copresidentes del Comité de ILAC.
I am one of the co-presidents of DLAC.
Sin duda, en el pasado nos ha sorprendido mucho este problema de COVID, de esta pandemia.
Without a doubt, this COVID issue has surprised us all.
Pero aún así han sido problemas acumulados a través de los años.
But even so, these have been issues that have accumulated over time.
Hemos pedido cosas.
We have been asking for many things.
Se nos ha oído, pero no se había avanzado.
We have been heard, but we had not made much progress.
El mes pasado, el mes de abril,
Last month, in April,
los miembros de DILAC hicieron 3 recomendaciones al Consejo.
the DLAC members came and gave 3 recommendations to the board members.
Fue acerca de la educación especial,
And it was about special education,
apoyo y participación familiar,
support and family engagement,
y espacios seguros.
and safe spaces.
En este momento vengo a agradecer su interés por estos asuntos, por estos topics.
And at this moment, I am here to come and express appreciation for your interest in these topics.
nosotros hemos hablado en el comité acerca de uno en especial.
And in our committee, we have spoken about one specifically,
Es la educación especial.
which is special education.
Nos sorprende la rapidez que se nos ha dado información y se nos ha escuchado y nos han puesto los recursos a nuestra disposición.
And we have been surprised by how quickly the district has responded and how quickly we have been offered information and support.
Quiero resaltar estas cosas por parte sin tomarme la libertad.
And I would like to highlight these things.
Quiero tomarme la libertad de los otros miembros de DILAC.
And on behalf of all of the other DLAC members,
Quiero agradecerles por este interés de su parte y de poner los recursos a nuestra disposición.
I want to appreciate how quick you all have acted and how quickly you have provided resources.
Y queremos seguir teniendo esta comunicación con ustedes, con todos los miembros del consejo, con maestros, y resolver estos desafíos con todos ustedes. Así es de que muchas gracias.
And we would like to continue working with all of you, the board members, the teachers. And so we just want to appreciate and thank you for all of the work that's being done.
Esperemos vernos pronto. No quería dejar la oportunidad pasar antes de que se acabe el año escolar y decirles muchas gracias por todo esto.
So I didn't want to miss the opportunity to appreciate you all before the school year ends. So thank you very much.
Y nos vemos el año que entra para seguir trabajando juntos.
And we will see you all next year to continue working.
Gracias.
Thank you.
As the next speaker is coming, I just want to explain, typically we allow 6 minutes when we're doing translation, so that's why the extra time was added after that. You didn't hear me call 30 seconds, so thank you. So following Jose Viverios and Valeria Padilla and Kimberly, I do not want to mispronounce your name, but you'll help me when you get here.
Good evening to the distinct board members that are in front of me, to my colleagues, the district team, and to my bosses out there representing us as well. I'm here today. I just found out a little while ago about what happened in Texas. I just found out. So I'm not here to talk to you as the district liaison. I'm here to talk to you as a human being. And I wanted to thank you for giving me the opportunity to be that human being doing the work that I do. It is with great pride that I go out there to the community who I just barely met because I'm not from here. And you have given me the platform, the resources, and the support to go over there outside, be a human being, and provide them with what the needs that they need at this moment. So it is with great honor and great pride that I follow your leadership, and I look forward in following it in the continued years. So thank you very much for your support, and thank you very much for the FEU team as well. Thank you.
Ms. Padilla, Kimberly, and Kimberly Ruiz after.
Hello, everyone. My name is Valeria Padilla, and I'm the current liaison for Roosevelt Elementary and Cleveland Elementary. I have been privileged to be in this position since October of 2021. I have been a familiar face to many families these past few months. I'm the person my mom needed when I was going through the school system here. But there were no liaisons when I went to Harding, La Cumbre, and San Marcos. There was me, a bilingual child who was able to fill out all the enrollment forms for not only myself, but for my sister. Now, I am still that person. However, I am that person to all the families at both of my school sites. I want to give a big thank you to Dr. Maldonado for all your support and leadership during these times. Since my role as a liaison, I have been able to support families with many resources throughout our community. At times, I was supporting them by applying for after-school programs like AOK, because it is an online form, and they have to fill out, and they have never heard of Google Forms. It was getting their AOK tuition waived because they were not aware they qualified for that. I have also had the opportunity to sit down with families who put their trust in me and talk about how they were about to get evicted and they did not know what they were going to do with their 4 kids. As this mother was telling me with watery eyes, I immediately reached out to United Way and was able to get them into a hotel for a week for free
before we help them with their apartment that they are in now, where their rent will be waived for the first couple of months so they can get back on their feet. All this mother could do was hug me and thank me, and I just said, this is what I'm here for. Last Saturday, we were able to distribute food to 75 families with our partnership with the food bank. We even unfortunately ran out of food when one of my families from Cleveland arrived. I told her I was going to text her with details of the food distribution we were having next week, which was today at Harding. She responded with, "Thank you, Valeria, and thank you for always letting us know about all these events." My heart felt so full because even though she did not leave with a car full of food, she was so grateful I knew of another place that would be able to help her fill some basic needs. I have seen the positive impact a liaison makes firsthand. I am a walking resource to everyone at the school. We are here to support our community, my team as a family engagement unit, and our superintendent as well. We are here to make sure that all of our students' needs are met. Thank you.
It's Kimberly, and can you please pronounce your last name? Following Kimberly is Kimberly Ruiz and Brian Campbell.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kimberly Urrutia, and I am the current liaison for Adams Elementary. I always like to remind families I serve as a bridge between families in need and agencies that can assist them in having their needs met. Since my role as a liaison, I have been able to work closely with newcomers and EML families, who many of them don't know how to navigate the school system, who may not know what reclassification means and how important it is for their student to pass the LPAC exam. But more importantly, support families with many local resources in our community. Just today, I was able to get a family to sign up for a summer camp. And you can just imagine the excitement of the student. Many of the families I've worked with don't read or write in English or Spanish. That's where I come in and give families the tools they need to advocate for themselves and their families. The most rewarding part of being a liaison is seeing families' faces when we have food bank drives or mobile vaccine clinics or celebrating their reclassified students. Overall, knowing that they have someone at Adams in their corner. Thank you to my FEU team for always collaborating and helping our families here in Santa Barbara. And Doctora Maldonado, thank you for your leadership and your support in our department. Thank you.
It's Kimberly Ruiz. I don't see her coming here. Is she? Okay.
Hello, good evening. I just want to start off by saying my name is Kimberly Ruiz and I work here at the district with all of my colleagues, and I've worked closely with Mr. Carmona and the DLAC executive committee and the rest of the committee. And I just want to say thank you to Doctora Maldonado and the support she has given to our department. It has allowed us to really support the families that are in dire need. And I know that change is not easy. And I just want to read a quote. And it says, "Change hurts. It makes people insecure, confused, and angry. People want things to be the same as they've always been because that makes life easier. But if you're a leader, you can't let your people hang onto the past." And that resonated with the change that you're making. And I just appreciate it as a first generation Latina woman. I admire your courage and your strength, and continue moving forward. And I appreciate your dedication to the school system. Thank you.
Next, we have Brian Campbell, Veronica Gallardo, and Caleb Chadwick.
Evening, everybody. Who here thinks a 12-year-old is mature enough to join the military, to vote, choose to use vape pens, smoke weed, or drink alcohol? How about consent to an injection which the official FDA disclosure states, and I quote, "Post-marketing data demonstrates increased risk of myocarditis and pericarditis. The observed risk is higher among males under 40 years old, more than among females and older males. The observed risk is highest in males aged 12 through 17. Information is not yet available about potential long-term effects. That's in the official FDA disclosure that I provided the school board years ago. I know they want to sweep all the COVID failures under the rug, but do you think a 12-year-old would read a 24-page disclosure document? Parents, do you want your child to consent to procedures that the district feels they can hide from you? That's right. They tell the children, your parents don't need to know what you're doing. How about consenting to a drug that is more dangerous than the disease? That's right. Yes, COVID is still around. According to the CDC, it states that kids have a 0% risk from COVID, but a moderate risk of severe health effects after taking the vaccine. The CDC data also states that children are twice as likely to die in a car accident. But the school doesn't require kids to walk to school, even though car deaths are more dangerous than COVID, per the CDC. The CDC data has always shown that children have a 0% risk from COVID itself, but they suffer risk from vaccines. The weekend of May 14th, a San Marcos High senior died of a heart attack while hiking. An 18-year-old has a heart attack. Want to know his vaccination status? What about the DP student who died of a heart failure last year? Could it be a coincidence, or could it be that the FDA disclosure that children suffer the highest risk of myocarditis is actually true? 18-year-olds don't just drop dead of heart attacks. So why is the district promoting and hosting vaccine clinics on public school grounds, knowing the vaccine poses a danger to children, knowing the CDC shows a 0% risk from COVID? On top of that, did you know that they are not administering the FDA-approved Comirnaty on school grounds? That's right. The school is promoting an unapproved drug where there is an approved vaccine. If there is an approved drug, why would they not use that one? I know why. It's because they don't have to give the FDA disclosures, which means that you as an adult and your child cannot give an informed consent. So let's recap. They want a 12-year-old to give informed consent on a medical procedure for an unapproved drug with no FDA disclosures and then not tell you about it. That sounds like transparency. Yet again, this school board and district and administration are all aware of these documents that I've sent to them over the years directly from the FDA and CDC.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Thank you.
From you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Gallardo. Next. Ms. Chadwick. Please keep your comments.
Thank you, Wendy. Caleb, Mr. Chadwick was first. I'll let him go first.
You were there now, so go ahead and speak.
It's okay.
Ms. Gallardo, can you just come on and speak? You're here there. Mr. Chad will be fine. Go ahead.
I just wanted to
I appreciate
follow the
that.
etiquette.
Just go ahead.
Thank you for putting me in front of him. Good evening, buenas tardes, ¿cómo están? So I've spoken to you before, and I'm here to talk about CTE, and it's great that you guys have this amazing display of student work and art. And as a trustee at Santa Barbara City College, CTE Pathway is an instrumental milestone partnership that we have. It's a pathway for all kids. Anthony Beebe, great guy, you guys met him, most of you. A lot of his champion work in the community was that some college is better than no college. And for a lot of our kids, Santa Barbara City College is that pipeline to higher education. So when kids start off in career technical education, such as woodshop, they get exposed to some college that then opens up careers. It was heartening to see how the woodshop got shut down this last spring. I don't know all the background, but I do know that Mr. Chadwick is an amazing educator. Sonia Sotomayor, in her book, she said that every child needs at least one person to believe in them. And I don't know how much you all know Caleb Chadwick, but he's that person for many, many children. And you would honestly have to hire at least 2 social workers, a couple counselors to do the work he does. And what he's able to do within the context of CTE with that mentorship and that relationship building. My own kid has been part of the CTE since he was in 7th grade. And during the pandemic, it was difficult for the kids. And Mr. Chadwick, even though the woodshop was shut down and he wasn't allowed to come to class or do what he had to do, he still found it in his spirit to uplift these kids. And that's what kids need. They need a sense of belonging, a sense of connection, and they need people to connect because mental health, illness is real and it's unfortunate. So I'm here because I support him. I hope that everything that transpired never ever happens again in our community, and that someone like Caleb Chadwick never ever gets treated the way he was treated. It was very unkind. It was unfriendly, and it made our family sad because while we were all leaning on each other as mothers and fathers and members of our community, he became part of our family to help us with our kids. So I want to say thank you for moving forward in the way you are, and I just hope that the events and the treatment of last year never continues.
30 seconds.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you. Mr. Chadwick?
Hello, board. My name is Caleb Chadwick. I wasn't expecting that introduction, so thank you, Veronica. For the past 9 years, I've had the privilege of being the woodworking construction tech teacher at Santa Barbara High. John was my principal when I first started, and I actually got to teach at both schools, at San Marcos and Santa Barbara High, for my first 2 years because the program was about to be shut down. And they decided to keep it open, and my first 2 years, I had about 60 students. This year at Santa Barbara High alone, we have 600 signups, so just under 600, around 570 for the woodworking program. And I think that's amazing. That's amazing for all of the schools, the junior highs and the high schools together have built this program. We meet, all the teachers meet regularly. I'm here today. I wasn't necessarily planning on coming today, and I felt that I should. I'm here today. I was asked actually to bring some projects, and I said no. Well, I said no, thank you, because I felt that although my students did win Best in Show and Visitor's Choice Award, that it was in spite of what this board has done. And I really just felt like I would be a hypocrite if I brought it here to be like, oh, yay, look at what we've done. In the fall, I was told, I was given 3 different dates that I was going to be let go. And that process was extremely difficult, mostly because I had questions and those questions went unanswered. So I had questions around my livelihood, about what I was doing. Fortunately, I know a trade and I could land on my feet. I know many people that were let go or left in the process of that, and they have had some hard times. I know that because I was in that group. And I'm not here to complain or to bash or to do any of that. I'm here to tell you that this school district is broken. There's pain and there's hurt in it. And the way forward cannot be the same as what it has been. I have not felt like I've been made whole. I felt like there was a wrong done to me and there was no apology. It was just like, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired. Never mind.
30 seconds.
So I don't feel like, I don't feel the same as I did going into the school year. Leaving Zoom, woodworking on Zoom, it sucks, it's horrible. Leaving Zoom and having real students in my classroom is what I live for. I love it. And I started the year so excited, and it has been very painful, and I want to return to that. So please, listen to your teachers. That's it.
Thank you. I'm going to do a final call for Magdalena Gonzalez or Alyssa Carnans.
Hola, buenas noches. Mi nombre es Magdalena González. Soy la nueva organizadora familiar de FLA. Hoy estoy aquí para agradecer a la Junta Escolar por aceptar alinear los requisitos A a la G. Vivo en Santa Bárbara desde hace 40 años y no conocía los requisitos académicos de la A a la G. Mis hijos no tuvieron la oportunidad de postularse a una universidad cuando fueron a la escuela en el distrito, pero ahora, si implementan los requisitos A a la G, mis nietos tendrán la oportunidad de solicitar una universidad UC o CSU. Este trabajo es muy importante para nuestra comunidad y espero que el distrito escolar lo implemente rápidamente para que ninguna generación de estudiantes se quede sin la oportunidad de ingresar a una universidad de 4 años. Gracias por su dedicación a esta importante labor. Buenas noches.
Hello, good evening. My name is Magdalena Gonzalez. I am the new parent intern for FLA. And I am here today to thank the school board for agreeing to align the A through G requirements. I have lived in Santa Barbara for 40 years, and I was not aware of the A through G courses. My children did not get a chance to apply to a university when they went to school in the district. But now, if you implement the A through G requirement, then my grandchildren will have the opportunity to apply to a UC or CSU. This work is very important to our community, and I hope the school district implements it quickly so no generation of students are left out of their chance to enter a four-year university. Thank you for your dedication to this important work. Thank you.
Alyssa Carnes, and followed by our final public comment speaker, Ms. Alejandra Gutierrez.
Hello, good evening. My name is Alyssa Casares. I am the incoming Santa Barbara Community Organizer for Future Leaders of America. And in the next coming months, I will be working with Santa Barbara youth to help make an impact and advocate for their communities. I just wanted to voice my gratitude for both Superintendent Maldonado and the Santa Barbara Unified School District. Along with past efforts by FLA, I would not have known about the A through G requirements and would not have been able to attend UC Berkeley, which I just graduated last week. I wish to carry on the knowledge about the past work that has been done. I'm also happy to hear that Superintendent Maldonado and the SBUSD have committed towards supporting a great cause just like ours, and have also continued making such an impact on Santa Barbara youth. Because this has been such a pivotal cause to me, I would like to ensure that future students in SBUSD have that opportunity as well. I'm excited to work and collaborate with each and every one of you in ensuring that we create a college-going culture in Santa Barbara. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Gutierrez. Following this speaker, we will close public comment.
Good evening, everyone. I want to make it clear that I'm here as a city council member. It represents District 1. And I'm here to address some of the public comment that was said a couple of weeks ago about our leadership. But I want to really thank all the women here at the school board and Dr. Maldonado. It is very tough being a female in leadership, especially a female of color. So I'm just here in support. Our community has been very divided because of COVID. But in order to move forward, like I've said during council meetings, we have to come together for the greatest cause, for the greatest good. And our focus here is the school district. We have to focus on the students and families and not on the adult problems. In order to move forward, we have to come together, and the divisiveness that we have created as a community is not moving us forward. So I'm here as a Latina, a woman, como mujer, para apoyarla a usted, Dr. Maldonado, and all the school board members. Thank you.
Thank you. President Munoz, that concludes public comment.
Okay, we will now take a 10-minute break, and we'll be back shortly. Thank you. Okay, we are continuing with our board meeting. And first of all, I'd like to recognize the retirements from the district. We have Rosalind Lambert with more than 25 years of service. We have Michael Riley, who's retiring with 11 years of service. Stephanie Rivera with 28 plus years of service. And Ann Silva with 20 plus years of service. Very appreciative and grateful to them and wishing the best in their retirement. And now I'd like to go to the consent agenda to approve the items that are considered routine and not likely to require any discussion. Dr. Maldonado and her staff have recommended that the board approves all the consent agenda items. The board has also had an opportunity to consider and ask questions about these items before tonight. First, are there any public comments on consent agenda items?
Yes, we have one request to speak. Sharon Jakarta.
No, just push.
Not yet.
Okay. Okay, so I'm not quite familiar with crescendo learning, and I just was reading about it today before I arrived here, and it just concerns me because I am a woman of ethnicity. I am Mexican and Filipino, and when I went to school, you know, I might not have been as bright as the honor school students, but I worked really hard. And because of the grades that my friends received, or I saw them receiving, I wanted to get those good grades. I wanted to go to college, and I did. Okay, the bar wasn't lowered. And I feel like that is what we're doing to the Hispanic community here in Santa Barbara. It's a huge disservice to the families and to the children. So I am a perfect example. You know, I went to college and I played volleyball in college. And I feel like we're dumbing down our children. We are lowering the bar. And it just really concerns me, you know, with especially my children. My son's in high school, my other son's in 6th grade. And you know, he's going to receive grades that he doesn't really deserve. He might get an A when it's really not A work, it's C work. I mean, I've seen that. I've seen that at DP. He had to do a paper on intersectionality, and he didn't want to do it. It was in English of all classes. This had nothing to do with English. He wrote a paper, not on that, but on something else. The teacher just praised my son and how bright he was and how brilliant he is, and he knows so much. And my husband and I looked at the paper. We're like, this isn't an A quality. And that's what's happening. And so it really concerns me, you know, for the Hispanic community, for all children. So I just really think you need to really think about that and make the right decision. You know, my grandparents, when they came here from Mexico and the Philippines, they came with nothing, but they worked their butts off to buy a house. Then they bought another house. Us grandkids went to college. Okay, that wouldn't have happened if my grandparents did not work hard. Okay, they took pride in what they did. And my father-in-law's from Germany. He survived the war. He came over to America with nothing. Didn't know how to speak English, but he worked
30
hard.
seconds.
But he worked hard. He was an engineer for Boeing, and he worked his butt off. That's what we need to teach our children, is a good, strong work ethic and to be proud of what they have done. Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. That concludes public comment.
Okay, board members, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented on items E2 to A15?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Passes unanimously. The consent agenda passes unanimously. Now we will go to the action agenda, the renewal of the participation agreement with Americorps, Reading and Math Incorporated.
Thank you so much. Just want to check, can you see the slides while I'm presenting?
Yes, well, give us 1 second. Ms. Escobedo will introduce you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Audrey, and board. Good evening. I introduce to you Audrey Borland. She will be presenting to you a presentation on Reading and Math Corps tutoring services. And she will be able to provide a presentation and some information, and I will be here to answer any questions at the end, and as will Audrey. So Audrey, thank you for waiting and standing by.
Sure, thank you, Anna. So
Go ahead.
kind of you. Okay, so we are an Americorps program. Americorps goes to service in many parts of our nation. Education is one of them. And so we partner with school districts to supply tutoring services. So we do kindergarten through 3rd grade reading core, early literacy foundational skill sets, and then 4th to 8th grade math core as well. So we were lucky enough, next slide please. We were lucky enough to be in your school district for the first time this school year. We saw 116 students, And we had very high fidelity to our program, meaning that we not only put tutors in buildings, we also coach, as well as school staff helps coach as well to make sure that we're implementing as best as we possibly can. Because the bottom line is that we want to see growth over and above what your students will already be getting because they're in your school district. So we see that 73, almost 74% of students are meeting or exceeding their targets and closing their opportunity gap. And we set scores to be later correlated on a 20 on the ACT. Next slide, please. So one thing Anna and Sierra talked a lot about was the student demographics and who we will be seeing. And they were particularly worried about vulnerable populations. And as you can see here, the vast majority of the students that we tutored are Hispanic or Latinx. And I did notice that this demographic breakdown does differ a bit from the district as a whole. Next slide. Okay, this is an eye chart, so let me just explain a little. We look at growth by grade level. Kindergartners, we look at letter sounds, first graders, nonsense words into reading the second half of the school year, and reading just a minute assessment for second and third grade as well. So that dark blue shows you that students are catching up. And you see that in first grade, that's a hill for climbers as students are just transitioning into connected text, but really nice results overall, I will say, particularly for a first year implementation. Next slide. So I always love it when a district does this. It's one thing for me to show data. It's another thing for a district to pull their own data. So your district went and looked at what those scores look like on STAR for early lit, and we see an 87-point gain on the Lexia scores. On Mathcore, we see a slight gain as well, although we had one tutor for a partial year. So I would say really that reading is nice to see. Okay, I will pause there.
This concludes her report. Board members, if you have any questions, I'm not sure if you're going to public comment. Ms. Escobedo is here as well.
Yes, is there any public comment on this issue?
We do not.
On this item? Okay, thank you. Board members, Ms. Capps?
Yes, thank you so much. I apologize if I missed this. How were the students chosen?
Very good, great question. So as many students as the school would like, we'll do a benchmark test on, just 1 minute assessment. And our tutors do that. And then ultimately the school decides based off of if they need some additional help in second grade. Scheduling always plays in as well. This is tutoring during the school day for the most part.
And I will just add to that, at the end of last year, we created a composite list of the students who were most vulnerable. In other words, our unduplicated students that had many factors that were something that we were looking into and they needed support with. And so from that list, we chose our Summer of Learning students last year. And then from that same list, at the beginning of the year, because our tutoring services did start in the fall, our principals continued to look at that list to see who was still in need that maybe did not go to summer school or just continued to have a need. But it is based on that list that we generated here.
So can we continue and do more, or what's the plan for the future?
That's a great question, and I'll take that one, Audrey. So that is why we are here today. We are hoping to renew our contract with Reading and Math Corps, hopefully to full potential. We, as you know, staffing also was a problem for them, and what we loved about Reading and Math Corps was that they hired locally people that were in our communities, and so even with that, they were able to see the results that they got, which were on a positive trend, as were we. And so we are very excited at the thought of being able to continue that adding some more tutors and supporting more students.
Ms. Ford?
Oh, did you have more? Sorry. Thanks. I just wanted to express my strong support for this program. I was a participant in the early iteration of Americorps called Teacher Corps, and I am not only so proud of this for what it's doing for our students, but also for 5 million Americans across the country who participate in this service branch of the U.S. government. I wondered if you could just be more specific or give us some details about the interaction between tutors and teachers.
Great question. Actually, there's a really amazing study that started this year with Brown University. So this started with a partnership between us and the district and Brown University, and particularly they're studying that teacher-student interaction. So they had a good sample this year and want to continue it next year. And so we're looking at how to bolster that interaction today. Each school assigns what we call an internal coach, and that internal coach is day in, day out with the tutors and has a lot of engagement. And then the tutors and your coach interact, of course, with teachers. And so Brown is studying a systematization of emailing them to see if that gets us yet another level. So on a monthly basis, we do data reviews, student level, and really specific to each and every student, and do pass that to, again, your coach and also teachers.
And the principals also are constantly CC'd on those communications, and just the feedback that I have received and seen at the school site has been nothing but positive.
Thank you.
Ms. Sims-Moulton?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for this presentation, and I too support it. I just wondering, I know we have many strategies that we're looking, how do we support our students? So do we have a list of all the tutors that are providing services to the students, and can we maybe bring back a graph of how that's doing as a whole in terms of, so, and also how parents can, how we can inform parents of the tutoring services that's being provided?
Yes, absolutely. Board Member Sims-Moulton, the reason why, when I first arrived, was tasked with this is because we had identified that we in elementary did not have a systematized tutoring support system. We had some interventions happening school site, but a support system or service was not in place, and it took us a while to find an organization that we thought was the right match for the needs that were very specific for our unduplicated students' needs. And even though it took us about 7 months, we were able to partner with Reading and Math Corps, and can expand our partnership with Gateway. So currently, so we can definitely come back and give you that detailed information and continue to spread the news of that.
Yeah, and I appreciate that so what you just said with regards to intervention versus tutoring. So can we explain that somewhere? Because you may think it's one and the same.
Absolutely.
So when you bring that back.
We can include that.
Thank you.
Yes, and just want to express my appreciation of how much, this has been of assistance, and how much time is spent with each student, and, in terms of helping close the achievement gap. So thank you. Thank you so much to both of you. Board members, may I have a motion please, Ms. Ford?
Yes, you may have a motion. I'd like to make a motion to approve the renewal of an agreement with Americorps Reading and Math Incorporated, DBA AMPAC, for the 2023 school year.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Yay, passes unanimously.
Thank you so much, Board. Thank you, Audrey.
Thank you, Audrey. Okay, we will now go to the approval of the 2022-23 school plan for student achievement.
President Munoz, I would like to pull this item. You received an email earlier from Mr. Vance. We are going to send these to you in a format that you can have some more time to review before the next board meeting, which will be June 14th. So I'm pulling this item from the agenda.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Maldonado.
Ms. Munoz, we do have a request to speak on this item. Wonder if the speaker still wants to speak. Okay, Mr.
Yes. Hi again, board. So the reason why I want to speak on this is that I looked at some of the practices again around literacy on this list. And if you go to Cleveland, the EMLs through the 3rd through 6th grade, they just have 2% proficiency, and the special ed only have 13. And the concern when I drilled down to see what they were using for literacy is they use Fontenelle and Pinnell, which is a similar whole word language. And like they say, look at photos and stuff. And if you have a student guessing at a word, they may see a picture of a horse. And if they say pony, that's considered an acceptable answer. Now, it's a really bad practice to reinforce that when at these young ages, they really need to learn how to decode. And our scores are low. Also, EdSource, Fonten and Pinella are their 2nd worst publisher, and this program is rated as the 2nd worst. So I know you want to use data, and I'm just a literacy hound, and so I read these things, but you need to know that this is not a good program, and it's particularly not good for this population, and a lot of these students can't afford outside tutors, and they need to be taught in decoding in a systemic way. The other thing, they also use balanced literacy here at Cleveland. I noticed Adams and a whole bunch of others, but the thing about that, I talked briefly about it before. But the other thing about balanced literacy is that once students start into it, you're just actually training them how not to read. And so then if they don't have it by the end of the 3rd grade, they get overwhelmed. And it also deals with a lot of mental health issues. And so I really want you to look at this. Balanced literacy, it's widely known that it's not effective. And this is just, everybody knows this. 20 states have banned it, and Mississippi being one of them. So I just really want to encourage you to look at this because this is hurting our kids. And I think we should rewrite this plan to include the science of reading. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the speaking on that item.
Okay, we will now go to item 3, the annual purchase of student and staff devices, and update on plans to improve the use of devices at school and at home. Mr. Ortega.
Good evening, Superintendent, President, board members. I bring to you today the ask for the annual renewal of devices for staff and students. And I also want to take this opportunity to give you an update on the input that we've been gathering from the various stakeholders through our community. I want to start by just talking about technology. And if we look at technology just by itself, we're not going to see much improvement. But if we go at it together and bring a whole team into what we do, we are going to see major improvements in what we do and not just stand idle by and not engage in continuous improvement cycles. And so with that, we have begun listening to board comments and also various different groups. And we have started a process of engaging in stakeholder input. One of the most recent ones, we started with just giving a question of, given that technology is a part of our reality in the 21st century, what are the benefits, concerns, and solutions that we have in order to inform our philosophy around educational technology? And so with that, we ended up getting a lot of feedback. And in that feedback, we did see the benefits and families being appreciative that we are engaging now in collecting the devices for PK through 3rd. Beginning this week and continuing on until the end of this year. We do plan on keeping these devices over the summer. And we do plan on giving parents the option to take those devices home as well. Other members were appreciative of just the iPads being a tool that allows them access much like we've never seen before. So it's a powerful tool, but we also know that there are a lot of issues and concerns that were brought up. Examples being too much screen time, the need for parent workshops, the need for teacher professional learning, the need for looking at YouTube and trying to figure out what is age appropriate and meaningful instruction with the use of these platforms. The need for educating our site administrators, our teachers, our students, and families around all of these common concerns. And overall improve our communication when we do engage in these stakeholder meetings. Some solutions that were brought up is to develop a district philosophy around technology, to focus on learning experiences that do not have heavy reliance on technology, to build coherence around what is digital citizenship. We've been throwing that word around a lot, and so it's really important for me to engage in a process of what that looks like and what that really means in our society and what that means overall. And so I'll segue to that because when we talk about the need for digital citizenship, it's really speaking to one of the prominent authors that talks about digital citizenship, Mike Ribble. And I'll read a quote. Digital citizenship is more than just a teaching tool. It is a way to prepare students for a society full of technology. And so it's a matter of not shying away from the technology, but it's a matter of embracing the technology and embracing it in a way that we think, how is this technology age appropriate? How is this technology meaningful? Now, I will say that when we started our device and one-to-one program, our primary focus was access. Our primary focus was getting devices to every student. It's one of the reasons that even during the pandemic, we were recognized by the state as having a pivotal practice around access to technology. It's also known that now that the pandemic has ended, things will not be the same. They're different. And so in doing so, we have to start looking at educational technology through a different lens. And one of the lenses that I'm bringing forth is just to really start looking at digital citizenship because there's a lot there. It's not just citizenship in terms of digital literacy. There are aspects of thinking of digital citizenship from a respect aspect, thinking of it from education, but also thinking of it from protecting and safety. So we got to think of it from social well-being, digital etiquette, digital literacy, obviously, but also thinking about the safety and thinking about what are the filters that we have here at school and in our district, and starting to look at platforms that can also help in filtering outside of our network as well. So we know that these are important elements that we need to improve, and digital citizenship is one that we're going to work on, not only with my team and the tech integrators, but also with our family engagement unit. And so we are leading some steps to get them involved because they are the ones that are connecting with the families, and they are the ones that can really help the families drive and empower themselves to support students. The other items that I put forth in the analysis is just the scope of how we plan to roll out the devices. And so when it comes to students in PK to 3, they are going to be classroom-based devices unless families have elected to take those devices home. And we will do that through a permission slip, so that way we have documentation in terms of where those devices are. And then once we figure out how to scope them and also look at apps and what apps are available, we'll be able to push those out and make sure that those students have the appropriate devices that are age appropriate and also done in a meaningful way. For students in 4th through 12, we're keeping on with our one-to-one program. And so that is something that has been effective and continues. And we know that digital citizenship is going to be one major factor that we have to engrave and weave in to everything that we do. It can't just be a program. It's got to be something that we do in everything: instruction, social emotional well-being, teaching families at home how to use it, and also guiding students so that way when they go on to colleges and when they go on to careers, they're able to function in a digital world. For our certificated staff, we scope it out. For our teachers, they get the MacBook Airs and they also get the iPads. And so they have both. During the pandemic, it worked, but it also works really well during just regular school days. The devices allow the teachers to walk around so they're not stuck to the front of the classroom. But it also gives them capabilities to manage devices. So we know that we need to build teacher capacity around how to manage a classroom in a digital age. And so that's definitely one area that we want to improve, because it's one thing to hand devices and it's another thing to just go through the skills and the strategies of how to manage a classroom in a digital world. And then for classified staff, that involves any clerical staff, but also paraprofessionals, and any classified staff that's working with students. They also get devices, and it's really based on what is the job description and what is it that they need the device for. So for example, a paraprofessional that's supporting a student in special ed, they may need a device. They might need two devices. One device to support the student, but another device to monitor the student as well. And so that's more or less the way the scoping works with our devices. The fiscal impact, as you saw there, we used to be a district that we were in a cycle of 3-year cycles of iPad devices. And in doing research, we determined that we could go on to 4-year cycles because the devices were still operational. It's one of the benefits of Apple devices that they maintain the sale value, but they also continue to work with the various different platforms out there. I'll give you an example. Smarter Balance, high stake test. I purchased when I was at the junior high Chromebooks back in 2017. And those same Chromebooks are non-operational right now, so we can't use them for testing. And part of that is because those devices, the secure browser is no longer operational with the Chromebooks. You just can't update them. There's no way of doing so. Our iPads still allow us to use the secure browser. So it's one thing that it just promotes that longevity. The other aspect of it is that we are able to engage in a buyback program. There are various organizations out there that engage in buyback programs. And so for example, our 5th generation devices, those devices still have a resale value. A resale value that can range from anywhere from $50,000 to $200,000 that we can get back. And so that can be contributed as going back into the fiscal impact and supporting our cause. And knowing that we have a buyback program, we are also able to get a standard of what those devices cost. They grade them in grade A, B, C, D, and they skip the F and go to G. But those letters represent more of what those values are. So knowing those values, it also allows us the opportunity to start selling those devices to staff and students that might have a need outside as well. So I want to share just in terms of next steps, because buying the devices is one thing, but next steps is going to be critical to this work and just continuous improvement cycles. And so in May now, we are collecting devices. We're keeping them in a classroom base for PK to 3rd. And then we are ensuring that when we come to the summer of learning, that we are cognizant of how those devices are being used. So that way they're being limited, but also engaging students in real life interaction and not using the devices as babysitting devices. In June, we are working with the Family Engagement Unit to provide support for families around technology. That includes the Jamf Parent app, which we've been piloting it this year, but we will be rolling it out next year. That includes parent workshops. That includes having workshops during back to school night, learning management system nights, teaching families how to monitor grades, but also teaching families how to manage and balance media. In June, we're also going to be developing a task force, and that task force is intended to guide us, advise us on any new technologies and platforms that we have coming in the future. So that way we stay in tune with what are the needs of the families in our community, while also engaging these cycles of purchasing. Over the summer, we do plan on having another stakeholder meeting to update stakeholders in terms of our process. We are vetting apps. We went through the process over the past 5 years of acquiring apps and getting apps, and now we're going through the process of vetting apps. This year, we took a lot of energy in vetting platforms, making sure that the platforms are not collecting data and selling it, making sure that the platforms are being used in a meaningful and age-appropriate way. We want to do the same with apps, and we want to condense those down and limit them in a way that we're not going to have apps where they're not age-appropriate. We will define the parameters of YouTube for teachers. We do have a lot of teachers that have engaged in blended learning. Blended learning is that concept where if you're teaching a concept and the student doesn't understand the concept, the teacher has also recorded that video and offers that video for that student as what we call scaffold, as a way to support. It also supports students who are absent or students who are not there. And so we do want to look at YouTube and not take it away, but understand how it's being used and see how it could be age appropriately defined. We also want to define the proper use of YouTube when it comes to elementary, and then defining what it would look like at elementary or not, and then what will it look like at the secondary level as well. Develop guidelines for grade level appropriateness and ensure it is used as a tool for meaningful instruction. One of my favorite authors was Alan November, and he always taught me that technology has to be a vehicle for delivering instruction. It can't be the instructional curriculum. It has to be that delivery of it. And in delivering it, it's got to be done in a way that is transformative. And so it can't just be something that is copy and paste. It's got to be something where students engage. I attended a panel yesterday of students, and I heard a board member here, Dawson, say global competencies, and that is communication, critical thinking, collaboration, creativity. And I'll add 2 more to that, and that is citizenship and character. And so definitely those are ones that we want to look at as we develop a philosophy around technology. So lastly, I do want to say that we are bringing and working with psychologists, technology integrators, librarians, and counselors at sites to develop these digital citizenship lessons to address many of the issues and concerns around screen time, media balance, bullying, harassment, and the impact it has on students' mental health. And I will put in a nugget that tomorrow I do plan on attending as a panelist for the Santa Barbara County Broadband Strategy Development Project, where I do want to elevate these concerns as well, because again, I go back to technology can't fix itself by itself. It has to be done with a team. So with that, board, I do ask that you approve a lease agreement with Apple to purchase the devices for students, staff for the 22-23 school year, knowing that we need to be intentional with how we approach our work so that we are factoring in the age appropriateness and meaningful instruction.
Thank you. And now to public comments.
Yes, we do have several speakers on this item, starting with Christian Hughes, followed by Miriam Parsa, and following by Sharon Wilcox.
Thank you, Mauricio. Wow, that was a lot of information. 3 minutes is not gonna have enough time, but good evening. Tonight I represent TechWise SB, a group of doctors, mental health providers, and invested parents, teachers, and tech experts. Thank you very much for the steps you have already taken to make SB Unified a more TechWise institution. Tonight is another one of those important steps, committing to another $2 million in additional spending on devices alone, in addition to the $1.2 million we're already paying annually for our existing Apple leases, is a critical decision in which direction EdTech goes from here. Right now, we don't need more devices. We have extra, especially with the changes proposed for TK to 3rd grade next year. What we do need is proof that their incorporation into student education is paying off. We need internal evidence that we're getting what we paid for. And if not, we need to know why and make the necessary changes to transform them into effective learning tools that produce results. In order to achieve this, we need to invest in our own ed tech, infrastructure, personnel, and programs. Digital citizenship starts with us here and now. As the very custodians of ed tech, it means putting our money where it matters most, a commitment to safe and effective ed tech. We need to negotiate with our Apple vendor for the features we want present on each student tablet, things like enabled screen time, built-in parental control features that are available to all students, not Jamf Parent that only works for those parents who they own a specific smartphone brand themselves. If you don't have Apple or Android, you can't do it. That excludes students whose parents don't have these types of smartphones. We need to invest in a mobile device management platform that is customizable to our needs as a district prior to signing any new leasing agreements with Apple. Before buying more devices, we should stop skimping on paying for the necessary safety and control features. We contracted with a cheaper third-party vendor for the configuring of student tablets this year. It resulted in thousands of misconfigured elementary student tablets, rendering them more harm than good. It was a lesson we learned. And here we now have the opportunity at SB Unified District to have control over our devices and set them up and configure them how we decide is best for our students. This is an exciting and transformative time with so much potential, but it means adjusting where we spend our ed tech funds. During the pandemic, we had to quickly get devices out to everyone, but we don't need to do that now. We can pause for a moment. We can invest in sharpening the tech tools we already have. These are the district's current tech budget needs to focus on making the tech we already have work well for us, making it effective for our teachers, students, and parents. For example, expanded ETS department, paid school tech liaisons who are dedicated to the ongoing education and assistance of teachers and staffs to implement their tech. These are the necessary steps to not only create 21st century learners, but also 21st century teachers.
But if you didn't finish your comments, you can hand it to the clerk and we can get copies. Thank you. Miriam Parsa. I don't see her. Sharon Wilcox.
So I'm not Sharon, but she couldn't make it last minute, so I'm going to read her statement.
Can you state your name, please?
Yeah, my name is Laura Rhodes. So Sharon Wilcox is a psychoeducational and brain-based therapist, and she has 47 years of experience, and so these are her words, not mine. The executive summary is that iPad harm outweighs the benefits. Number one, parent rights and responsibilities of controlling electronic use is usurped. There's a national trend of parents moving to homeschooling and private schools to have more interactive learning, creating a financial siphon for public schools. Number two, access to inappropriate websites is prevalent as parents and teachers cannot control it. Number three, iPads are a distraction. Even before COVID, researchers between 2011 and 2016 found that use of iPads in schools leads to decreased academic performance and attentional awareness, and it's even more so now. Number four, iPads do not allow students to read and take notes at the same time, which makes learning and memory more difficult. Number five, they create physical harm. Research has extensively demonstrated eye strain, headaches, blurred vision, and a posture slump that leads to stomach and back aches it causes. Sleep disturbance due to blue light is well documented as well. Number six, handwriting is further denigrated due to iPad use. UCLA psychologists report that students learn better when they take notes by hand than on a keyboard, with a difference in 8% in memory. Number seven, there's a new diagnosis now, and it's tech addiction. Psychologist and addiction therapist Dr. Nicholas Carderas states digital drugs activate pleasure circuits in developing brains. The amount of dopamine in a brain doubles, the same effect as sex, while the amount of gray matter in the frontal cortex, the brain's decision-making center, shrinks. Number eight, excessive exposure. There's a landmark study by the National Institute of Health that indicates that children who spend more than 2 hours a day on screen time score lower on language and thinking tests, and some students with more than 7 hours a day of screen time actually experience a thinning of the brain's cortex, the area of the brain related to critical thinking and reasoning. In 2021, the CDC urged that children under 2 have 0 screen time. 2 to 5 years of age, no more than 1 hour a day co-viewing with a parent, and then 5 to 17 years a day, 17 years of age, no more than 2 hours a day. But we
30
also know that
seconds.
kids spend, not including homework, 6 to 9 hours. So there's resulting problems: obesity, mental health, attentional issues, tech addiction, decreased thinking, cognition, problem solving, language development, motor development, social skills, imagination, thought, and creativity. The bottom line is that we have had school programs decrease drug use and violence, and we need to improve learning scores and social emotional intelligence. And these
Time.
problems
Thank you.
thank you.
If you didn't finish, you can submit it and we'll continue to read it. Found 2 speakers, Sierra Kegley and Robert Hughes.
Good evening, everybody. This is my first school board meeting, so thank you for letting me join you. My name is Sierra Kegley, and I'm a dietitian for Santa Barbara County. Prior to working in the WIC program and for nutrition services for Santa Barbara County, I was an Americorps tutor for a year in one of the elementary schools here in town. And I worked primarily with first and second graders. I grew up in a house where television was only allowed on weekends, content was controlled, and if we complained about being bored, we were told it was good for us, and we're encouraged to find something else to entertain ourselves. While I agree there is a time and a place for technology, I have many concerns about the excess of screen time these days. Interacting with a screen is not the same as interacting with a person. It impacts children's language and other aspects of their development if they do not interact with people. We are currently providing a class to our WIC families on the importance of talking, reading, and singing to kids. I truly believe that is important, and I want to encourage and support families in doing these things, which is why I would like to see limited iPad use for the youngest learners at school and limiting it to the classroom only. I'm also concerned about the many negative impacts of screens and technology use on eating and exercise behavior. For example, seeing advertisements for junk food and then wanting those foods. Eating in front of a screen and paying attention to what you're watching instead of your internal signs of hunger and fullness. Spending time being sedentary, playing on a device instead of outside being active. Family meals being replaced by meals in front of a screen, despite the many known benefits of family meal time. Developing body image issues and disordered eating habits after seeing social media posts. These are reasons why I support monitoring and restricting the content children can access, and for making sure parents are aware of the negative impacts of screen time, so they can hopefully make more informed decisions about their child's usage at home. Thank you for considering changes to address these concerns for the upcoming school year.
Next, followed by Robert Hughes.
Dr. Maldonado and members of the school board, thank you for the opportunity to address you this evening. My name is Dr. Robert Hughes. I'm a board certified family physician and currently the director of student health services at Westmont College. I've specialized in student health care for the last 7 years, most of which was at UCSB Student Health Center. During this time, I've seen a dramatic shift in the physical and mental health of my post-secondary education students. I am sure you're acutely aware of the heightened anxiety of adolescence. This has protracted to the young adult population for whom I provide medical care. My mental health colleagues are overwhelmed by the demand for their services. It's widely suspected that recent rapid advances and availability of screen technology and social media have contributed to this unfortunate phenomenon. Anecdotally, my young adult patient population has difficulty separating for their devices, even long enough to adequately describe to me, their physician, their symptoms. Cyberchondria, doom scrolling are endemic. Every minute spent browsing or scrolling is time away from healthy activity, such as exercise. As a professor of pathophysiology for our school's new nursing program, I see my students distracted by technology, even as I lecture on essential material. As a scientist, I appreciate the contribution that modern computer technology makes to our growing knowledge base and ability to learn. I also realize that the COVID pandemic forced a shift to virtual learning enabled by tablet technology. Moving forward, utility of technology in our primary education should be scientifically analyzed to prevent diminution of learning in childhood and its implications for our blossoming young adults. Until safety can be proven and efficacy can be shown, access to screen-based education technology should be limited. Thank you for considering how damage from unmeasured access to screens can be limited and for the care of our future college students. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes public comment.
Okay, board members, do you have any comments or questions about this item? Ms. Ford?
Yes, thank you so much. I do support this rationale and this expense, but more importantly, I'm really supportive of and really grateful for the acknowledgement of the mandate to continue to work on a partnership with the community on the aspects of student tech use that are of utmost importance and concern. I strongly support the collection of the iPads this week in grades K through 3 and the creation of a philosophy of use of educational technology in our schools. Specifically going forward, I'd like to request or think about focusing on 3 issues in particular. One is to have more expert input and data on the use of instructional technology from K through 12. I totally agree in keeping track of screen time. We must do that. And the use of all devices in secondary, including cell phones in our high schools. I'm thankful for all the numerous staff and community members, the organization TechWise. I learned so much in the past few weeks. And to you, Mr. Ortega, and of course, Mr. Rouse, for all that's happening now. And I'd love for you to consider making regular reports to the board on technology. And I really, really support, as I said last time, the minimal use of devices during the summer of learning and continuing to establish this passionate and knowledgeable data task force. I think that's the key. Thanks.
Ms. Capps?
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm hoping this is the beginning of a new way forward. Every year it seems like every year we approve technology, the budget comes through. I'm glad that we took a pause on this. This was supposed to come up a few meetings ago. And I really am grateful that we took a pause on this big budget item to get this right and to actually have more of a holistic conversation about technology and education, because sure, you all need to sign contracts and we're aware of those pressures, but we need to be the conduit of the community. And I have to say that TechWise, in the 5 years that I've been on this board, it stands out as one of the best examples of how a school board should function, where the community comes together with thoughtful experts, doctors, parents, teachers, psychologists, and actually makes the school board aware of something that I can speak for myself. I was not aware that the iPads were still going home. My son is in 5th grade, so I see that one, but I didn't know that it was still going home in kindergarten, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds. And this is what these meetings, to get a little sappy, this is what this is about, right? Because the intentions are good. Equity, you started off, Mr. Ortega. Equity was the goal. No one will dispute that, right? But then there's ramifications. There's the perils and the promise of technology. And we understand them both, or we understand those concepts, but we have to understand actually what that looks like more. And so I just encourage, as you say, we're going to be using or consulting with psychologists and teachers. We have the experts. This group has shown such respect and such diligent work to provide to us, provide to the board, provide to the public, provide to the media, the expertise. And let's fuse that as much as possible and use the goodwill of the community to try to get this right. I love how Melissa Quigley said in one of the meetings, we can get this right. I mean, we can get as close to getting it right as possible. I mean, it's not a huge district here, right? We have these experts who are willing to, sit here at 8:30 on a Tuesday night, time after time. It's really impressive. And I find it also, I mean, it's scary for me, and I see it, I do battle with the iPad daily, so it's not theoretical for me at home. I'm also very intrigued by the topic. Like, it's a very, and if we approach it, I mean, I would hope, folks in your position, Mr. Ortega, and others, educators, myself included, let's learn what the latest science is on this. Let's find out what different districts are doing. I mean, it can seem very daunting and very, the perils are so obvious, but there's also so much promise if we can just be as studious as possible to understand the ever-changing dynamics of technology on our lives and our little kids' lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Capps. Oh, Mr. Kelly?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ortega, for your report. Also, community members, experts that spoke, thank you all so much for your insightful comments. I would like to say that I am a fan of technology in school in terms of how it can enhance our learning and create a more equitable environment for learning. But I also am aware firsthand of how much this has affected students socially and emotionally. And I think that's a big thing that we need to tackle next. With giving them this technology, we really need to inform students and make them aware of how this is actually affecting their mental health and how this can have long-term implications on their livelihoods. I know I struggle daily with the use of my phone, and I know a lot of my peers do as well. So early on, informing them about how to have a healthy relationship with a phone or a tablet or a computer, just how you have healthy relationships with people, I think is super important moving forward. And also getting stakeholder input, expert input, making sure that we're consistently doing this and being mindful because people change and technology changes us. So it's important to keep getting consistent input so we can be approaching this accurately. So thank you for your report and thank you all for commenting.
Ms. Sims-Moton?
Yes, thank you for the report, Mr. Mauricio. And I know one of the speakers talked about talk, reading, singing, and that's exactly what's important in terms of that, particularly in those early years. And so it makes me think about as first five, as our kids are coming to school a lot earlier, now we're having TK. So how can we support this conversation with parents, even in our home visitation at the earliest moment, what it looks like and what support they need to do? Because we certainly want to be able to support parents as their child's first teacher. And so as we start to do that and they're entering this particular institution, that next level of learning, how do we partner to ensure that what their kids need to be exposed to, even down, because I've seen it where they're young and they're already knowing what to do and they know no other thing other than they're looking at a screen. And so how can we take that step back and start to, incorporate this so by the time they get here, not only are they prepared for school, but also understand a healthy, as I say, Dr. Dawson, maybe he's going to be a doctor, but Dawson, perform a healthy relationship with devices. So thank you.
Yes, and I certainly echo what my fellow board members are saying in terms of the use of devices and such. Thank you for your report. And I certainly support, keeping like the class-based devices for the younger children and having them have actual, hands-on learning. In addition to that, the YouTube, the age-appropriate use of that. And using it for educational purposes and for elementary and secondary students. So thank you all. And I appreciate, the input that your group has given us. Thanks. Board members, may I have a motion to approve item number 3, approval of annual purchase of student and staff devices and update on plans to improve the use of devices at school and at home?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. We will now move to number 4, the approval of the contract award for the Washington Elementary School roofing and replacement project.
Good evening, Board President Munoz, board members, Superintendent Dr. Maldonado, executives and members of the public. I'm Marina Verdian, Director of Facilities and Modernization for the district, and tonight I'm here to ask for your approval of the contract award for the Washington Elementary School roofing replacement project. The scope of this project consists of re-roofing of the existing school buildings B, C, D, and E, with building A as an alternate. As part of the re-roofing, the skylights also need to be replaced. Now, the skylights are very important in the conversation because because of the skylights, we had a protest from one of the contractors because the other contractor did not hire a subcontractor specifically for the skylights. And I'll get into it a little more. I'll try not to be too long, I promise. So on April 19, we opened sealed bids for this project from 3 companies: Pueblo Construction, Newton Construction and Management, Inc., and Commercial Waterproofing System, Inc., doing business as ERC Roofing and Waterproofing. I will refer them to as ERC going forward. Soon after this meeting, we received a bid protest letter from Pueblo Construction in regard to ERC Roofing and Waterproofing Company's bid. This letter was promptly forwarded to ERC. Their bid did not list a subcontractor for the skylights, and ERC's plan was to do it themselves with the supervision and on-site certification from the manufacturer for this specific skylight application. ERC responded to the protest letter, which you can see in the submitted documents. We conferred with our legal counsel on this matter, and it was determined that ERC's bid was non-responsive to the contract documents, and Pueblo Construction's protest was upheld. We sent a response to ERC in which we specified the reasons for this action. So I'm going to read just an excerpt from the letter we sent to ERC, which explains the situation about skylights and not hiring a subcontractor for it. The district specifications for the skylight installation required that the skylights be installed by an installer with factory approval and at least 5 years of experience installing similar products. Erection shall be by a factory-approved installer that has been in the business of erecting similar material for at least 5 consecutive years and can show evidence of satisfactory completion of projects of similar size, scope, and type. Section 08620, Article 1004, Paragraph C. This is the law under which this is required by the Education Code. Per ERC's April 28th letter regarding this specification, ERC was informed by the skylight manufacturer that 5 years of experience was not required to receive the required warranty for the materials, and, quote, ERC would be able to be certified on site for this specific skylight application, end quote. Unfortunately, plans to get on-site certified with direct on-site training and supervision from the manufacturer during installation do not meet the district specification for installation by a factory-approved installer with experience erecting the same or similar material for 5 consecutive years. Finally, while Kingspan is the manufacturer of the skylights, while Kingspan may have advised ERC that 5 years experience was not required to receive the warranty for the materials, such manufacturer's interpretation does not change the fact that the district required a factory-approved installer with 5 years experience installing similar product nonetheless. So in the last sentence is that given the above, ERC's proposal is not explicitly responsive to the contract documents and the requirements set forth for skylights installation work as section 08620, article 104, paragraph C. And on that basis, district will decline to award the contract to ERC. The contract will be awarded to the lowest responsible bidder whose bid meets all of the following requirements in our contract documents. And that contractor was Pueblo Construction. So, and we're requesting your approval of a contract award of $3,150,672.26 to Pueblo Construction Incorporated for roofing replacement project at Washington Elementary School. Thank you for your attention to this item and for your consideration.
Okay, being that there's no public comment on this item, board members, do you have any questions or concerns? Ms. Sims-Moten?
Thank you, Ms. Zarate. I just have a question with regards to the protests and the issue that they brought up, that there wasn't a subcontractor. Is that something we would have, that we look for as a district or whoever our facilities, would we have looked for that to be in the paperwork?
So the paperwork was submitted all at the same time. And when we opened the bids, that one contractor did not have any subcontractor listed for skylight specifically. So the other bidders have a right to review all the documents that their competition has submitted. Okay. And upon reviewing those documents, they have discovered that there was a missing subcontractor, so they protested that bid.
Okay, I appreciate that. Just understanding the process is how we got there. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, may I have a motion to approve item number 4, approval of the contract award for the Washington Elementary School roofing replacement project?
Oh, I would like to approve the contract award to Washington Elementary School roofing replacement project, please.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Okay, passes unanimously.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, Dr. Becchio, now we'll have the approval of the employment agreement with Dr. Stanley Monroe.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Board President Munoz, board members, Superintendent Maldonado. I bring before you tonight this item. As you recall, 2 weeks ago, we brought forward to closed session Dr. Stanley Monroe's appointment as Assistant Superintendent of Elementary. This board approved that appointment. One of the statutory requirements is that we bring the terms of his employment, which is part of the attachment here, the terms of his employment before you for an action item to get board approval on that item. And so with that, I present this to you and happy to take any questions you might have.
We do have a request to speak on this item.
Okay, Ms. Sims-Moten?
Yes, Victor Corona on F5. Yeah, I think we need an interpreter. Yes. Oh. No, I think she's, hold on one second. I think she's, I'm gonna find her. Adriana, can you put 6 minutes on the clock there? Thank you. Here she comes. Okay.
Bueno, buenas tardes otra vez. Antes que nada, quiero abrir un paréntesis para agradecer a el señor John Shedler.
Yes, good evening once again. I just want to make some space here to thank once again John Shetler.
Por todo su tiempo, por todas sus respuestas conforme a educación especial.
For
y
all of
sobre
his
todo,
time and for all of his answers with regards to special education.
y por escuchar todas nuestras quejas, que no fueron nada más una.
And above all, for listening to all of our complaints, and it wasn't just one.
Excuse me, I don't know if that's the right item. This is to approve the assistant principal. Is that the one you wanted to speak on?
Sí.
Excuse me.
No, es abrir un paréntesis.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that before going into the rest.
Yeah,
Okay. Just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Yes.
Okay.
Sin duda, en estos momentos hay muchos cambios.
Without a doubt, in these moments, there are many changes.
Y es muy triste que muchas gentes con mucha experiencia dejen nuestro distrito.
And of course, it's very sad that many people with a lot of experience are leaving our district.
Pero también mucha gente viene con mucha experiencia y a contribuir en este proyecto, en este nuevo proyecto.
But we also have a lot of people that are now joining the district that come with a lot of experience.
Tuve la oportunidad de estar en la entrevista para el señor se me olvidó. Monroe.
I had the opportunity to be part of the interview process with Dr. Monroe.
Su experiencia es impresionante.
And his experience is very impressive.
Y creo que va a ser un buen candidato para ocupar uno de los cargos que están vacantes en este distrito.
And I believe he's going to be the great candidate that's going to fill this position in the district.
También quiero agradecer a nuestro estudiante board member.
And I also want to thank our student board member.
Y quiero darle la bienvenida a Kavya.
And I also want
Suresh.
to welcome Kavya Suresh.
Que me dio una grata impresión al comenzar a hablar conmigo en español.
And I was very impressed when she spoke Spanish with me.
Y también agradecer esta decisión que toma el Consejo de darle oportunidad a los jóvenes, que es una parte muy importante en nuestro distrito para que opinen, para que den su opinión.
And I also want to appreciate the board for allowing the position of student board member, because that's a very important position in order for them to be able to give input with regards to students.
Y creo que de ahora en adelante, en este tiempo de cambios, debemos de integrar más a nuestros estudiantes, porque creo que ya es tiempo de que nos den nuestras opiniones.
We started with 6. You started with 3? Oh, okay. I thought when you did that. All right, go ahead, complain.
Thank you. Y que aporten todas sus ideas.
And I think it's great that we allow our students to be able to give all of their ideas.
Y entender la necesidad de todos estos estudiantes, como en el caso de Kavya.
And allowing us to listen to all of the needs that the students have with regards to what Kavya mentioned earlier.
Este comentario es acerca de la necesidad del multilingüismo.
And this comment is also with regards to the need of multilingualism.
Y no solamente es algo que se ocupe, sino que es una necesidad para todos estos estudiantes.
And recognizing that it is a need for all of these students.
Así es que gracias y nada más solo decir cosas buenas del señor Monroe. Gracias.
So thank you very much, and I just wanted to say those very positive things about Mr. Monroe. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes comment.
Okay. Board members, can I have a motion to approve the item of approval of employment agreement for Dr. Stanley Monroe, Assistant Superintendent of...
Did you have any comments from the board?
Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry. Okay, comments, Ms. Ford.
I just wanted to mention that I had the opportunity to meet and talk with Dr. Monroe, and I was really impressed. I think we're lucky to have him. We all know that there are difficulties in our career, and we all have been many different places that have been challenging, but I think the time is right for Dr. Monroe here, and he will really enjoy being with us.
Okay, Ms. Sims-Moten.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for those comments. I too had the opportunity to speak with Dr. Monroe, and I appreciate, again, where we come in our careers, where we are, lessons that we've learned. And I think as we're going through much change in this district, and change is hard, as I think one of the speakers said, but it's necessary change. And I can appreciate who's coming to help us navigate through where we need to go. Thank you for coming and being a part of this. And thank you for being on the committee, meaning that we need the community to help us as well as we navigate through this. We need to also look at, if we're in a difficult time, we need to look for very creative and open-minded solutions to come here, to be able to move us in the direction that we need to be able to move. And when someone says yes, and when you've viewed some of the challenges that we've had publicly, and you still say yes, that says something to me. And so I can appreciate coming and being a part of it. That says you're committed to being a part of the change that needs to happen. And so I really wholeheartedly support this. And again, want to thank those who are coming and in this time of change and turbulence, because I know it's just on the other side that we're going to be past this windstorm right now.
Okay. With that, I will ask if we have a motion to approve item number 5, the approval of the employment agreement with Dr. Stanley Monroe.
So moved wholeheartedly.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please raise your hands and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, we will now move on to number 6. The board action.
Move approval of board action interdistrict transfer appeal 2021-22 school year at code 46600-46611, case number 2021-22-T22. Move approval.
Sorry, I wasn't ready, but I will second that.
Yes. Okay, all in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, passes unanimously. And now for number 7, Ms. Sims-Moten.
Yes, move approval of interdistrict appeal for the 21-22 school year at code 4660-46611, case number 202122 T23. Move approval.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please raise your hands and say aye.
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 Okay, passes unanimously. So now we will go to the discussion agenda. Number 1, the response to racial incidents report.
Thank you, Board President Munoz. And I think if my staff can put up, I only really have 2 slides to share with you today, as we have not had a meeting since our last board meeting with our Combating Anti-Blackness working groups. In our next slide, as we have always committed to you, we have data from the last meeting to this Friday. Continue to see race-related incidents across 3 schools. And I want to remind you that we have defined a race-related incident as any incident in which any incident in which a person or group is targeted for their race or perceived race. The targeting can be emotional, physical and or verbal, virtual and or in person, direct or indirect, regardless of intent. One thing I want to share with the board is that I am, as I review some of the reports that are coming to me, especially with these last 6, I'm seeing some of the more proactivity in terms of principals getting involved personally at these cases at schools, and also when appropriate, using suspensions to signal the level of expectation that we have for how we treat each other in school. And not only that, the support to the victims and the re-education of the offender, so that it's also used as an opportunity for them to understand how all of these things not just hurt others, but also can have long-lasting effects, and the historical meaning behind why we need to always treat each other with respect as humans, and take great care of our community. Our next meeting will be June 9th, and I hope to at that time share with the group a couple. I've only received one so far bid for the racial climate assessment. I'm expecting 2 more, and hope to have those by June 9th for us to review, along with the last meeting's request to continue to talk about what are we doing between now and conducting a racial assessment. So I want to remind the board that we are not sitting idle while we wait for that. We are still continuing to track and talk to our leaders about this issue as we wind down the school year. That is all for my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Maldonado. Do we have any public comment on this item?
We do not.
Okay, board members, any questions or concerns? Ms. Ford?
Thanks. Dr. Maldonado, from the start, this committee was, I believe, what you'd call an ad hoc committee. Doesn't have to follow the Brown Act, et cetera, because it has a beginning and an ending at some point. I'm wondering how long you expect to keep this committee going, and also addressing any additional specific issues going forward.
It's hard for me to answer the question about how long at this time, especially because I'm still working with, we've only had 2 meetings really. I'm still working with developing the group's areas of focus, still looking at internally some of the policies that we have in place, looking at how we're going to review some of the ways each school provides their code of conduct. As you heard, additionally, we had concerns around discipline issues from our SBTA president, which I want to also talk about as a holistic view of the climate and culture of our schools. And then I think the other part to how long the group will stay is, after we get the results of the racial climate assessments, is to really look at district-wide policies that can be enacted across campuses, and not just a reactive, check the box kind of an activity. So there's relationship building with some of the group, there's looking at the assessments, there's having them give us feedback on some of the policies we have, and really creating a district-wide system so that we're all aligned with who we are and why we expect to be this way. I also want to be cognizant and call out the obvious, which is that we do have Dr. Wagenik, who's given us many years of service, retiring, and we're welcoming Kenya Edison, who also comes with a wealth of experience and knowledge in this area, and we're looking forward to bring her into the fold. So I think because of that, I can't really give you a really concrete answer.
Just knowing that you recognize that there are many different aspects of this work that are still left undone, and you plan to address them, is just plenty for me. I'm wondering if you foresee that this committee will also have a set group of members, and if you're thinking that there is anyone else that you'd want to invite.
I don't have an answer for that just yet, but I do think it would help to have some teachers join us. So I will be reaching out to Joyce as we think about this discipline culture overall as well, when we think about it in relationship to the race issues, perhaps even asking a couple of school administrators to also join the group.
Interesting, thank you.
Ms. Sims-Moten?
Yes, so thank you for that report. And I think it's important that we continue to report this out, so that we keep it on the forefront and it doesn't somehow get moved over as we go forward. With regards to the task force, I think that was initially like, let's come together and let's talk about that, which is what we need, what we want in the provider of the racial climate survey that we've been seeking to do that. And I think once we narrow that down and we come to that, I think we'll find out a lot of things, what the need is through that survey. Not only will it address the racial issues, but I think it will pick up other issues as well. And so I think that will determine, to your point, Ms. Ford, what type of committee we need. Because, this one was coming together. It was a task force. It was short-lived in that, but we're hoping that the results and the analysis of the climate survey and the racial climate survey will then tell us what we need to either, how do we ongoing assessment of our policies, updating of our policies. So I'm sure there'll be a permanent group, and not this particular group. It's more like that working group there. But a lot of the information is coming in, like who we want to see to get this. And then our next steps will be determined through that climate, the results of that climate survey, to tell who best needs to be a part of that. So again, because it's important to have that third party view, because we're not in the middle of it. So that's what we're hoping to see out of that. And then secondly, I would say that I think language is really critical, how we say it, what we do it. So I know we're using, it feels like official police language, victims and offenders. I'd like to see us use it a little bit differently. We're in a school setting, we're trying to do that so that it doesn't feel so officially police in that language. And I think, particularly as we talk about restorative justice, so that's all about the language, how we're saying it as well. So something to consider as we go forward.
Certainly.
I will take note for sure of that one. Thank you so much, Mrs. Simspon. I also want to recognize that as connecting the dots per se with this work, with the discipline, the concerns we have around that, Kavya made a great point when she talked about this issue of school safety. And so in addition to that, I'll be bringing some of the work we're doing with school resource officers in our high schools. So all of these things and all these dots need to be connected holistically so that we're not talking about these things as separate topics, but actually all related. But I thank you for that. I know you and I always look at language very specifically, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think that, it certainly needs to be a part of the whole part of our safety. I don't want to lighten why we got started in the first place about the racial. That seems to always kind of find its way to the bottom. So it's really important for that it stays why we happen and where we are today. And so, because when that does happen, historically, it never gets taken care of it and we see it again. So I think that's really important as we look at that. And I also want to make sure as we're looking at the school resource officers, how we're also incorporating the campus safety assistance in this as well.
Okay, thank you. We will now go to bonded funded projects update. Ms. Hernandez.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Maldonado. Tonight, I wanted to bring to the board just kind of a status of what our bond projects are. We haven't really had a really good presentation in quite a while on where we are, what are some of the projects we're working on. If you have driven near any of our schools, you will see that we are working everywhere. And we have several solar projects going, some really amazing classrooms that are being built, projects happening across all of our schools. So what I'd like to do tonight is bring up our Director of Facilities. And then after her, I would like to bring in Desmond Ho to talk about our solar projects, just to kind of give you a status of where we are.
Hello again, Board President Munoz, board members, Dr. Maldonado. executives and members of the public. This is going to be a short update on projects that are still in progress. I'm not reporting on the completed projects, but I have a list of them if you have any questions. Next slide, please. So the update will be on Measure I and Measure J projects and a construction status and anticipated end dates. Next slide, please. Okay, we'll start with the Dos Pueblos High School CTE Pavilion. If you have been there, you've seen, this is going forward. It's 85% complete, and we anticipate it to be done in October of this year. For Adams Elementary, we have new classroom and site improvements there. The phase 1 is complete, and the phase 2 is in design. The phase 1 will be, well, if you've seen the new classrooms, there are 4 new classrooms that are absolutely spectacular. They're beautiful. 3 of those classrooms are separated by a sort of a dividing wall. That's a glass wall, which allows those 3 classrooms to combine into a larger event space or whatever space the school might need. Otherwise, it will be 3 different classrooms, and they're very modern. They look great. They have good technology in them, and I'm sure that the students would enjoy them very much. We have Goleta Valley Junior High School roofing project. That project is 90% complete. With the exception of 600 building that we'll be doing this summer. And that will be done before, let's say, before October of this year. For Monroe is on schedule for 70% completion, will be done by the end of September. Next slide, please. Some of the pictures were put together. On the left, you can see the Adams Elementary classrooms, the ones that I was just talking about. It's from the exterior and interior. Exterior also looks good. I mean, I'm not. Some would say that school facilities are kind of boring because it's all classrooms and it's nothing spectacular, but it's not fair. Looking at this particular project, you can say that it is truly exciting. And, there are lots of architectural elements inside and outside that really kind of create that atmosphere of celebration and learning. And this is truly an experiential learning space that is important for our kids to be in. So we're very proud of this project. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the Dos Pueblos CTE on the left and on the right. And since we had this picture, I think we have a little bit more built up. So, and that's going to be, that is actually going to be a very important space for the school district, because it's not just a space, it's a place where we give the opportunity to the students to actually decide what it is that they want to be when they grow up. So I think these kind of spaces, they do create that opportunity, that kind of imagination. It opens up, the world to them. They have excellent teachers that can provide that education to them, and even with their current engineering lab, it's pretty eye-opening. I was there and I was truly surprised as how developed that is. Next slide, please. We have for the the next slide is about what we have in plan right now. So we have a contract award for Washington Roofing that I was just presenting on. So I was anticipating that it would get approved. So here it is, the status is there. And we're gonna start on this in June. Will end in summer 2023. The reason it's gonna take a little bit longer is because we will need to order the materials. And then we have to stage it out because of so many buildings to be completed. So that's why it's going to take a year. It's not like we're going to ruin the school for a year. It will be staged out where we'll coordinate with the school to make sure that it's not disruptive. We have Santa Barbara High School new VADA building that's out to bid. It would anticipate start day of August 1st. And Cleveland classrooms, Harding classrooms, Peabody classrooms. Well, they have different status, but you can see that Cleveland is actually going to start in August, also complete in 2023, again for materials and also for some space issues that they have within the school to be able to coordinate with the different programs within. Harding has bid opening day for 5/26, and with the start date this winter to be completed in spring 2023. For Peabody, actually we have a new update for Peabody Charter. We received approval from DSA, and we have a bid opening scheduled for June 30th. Next slide, please. So we have, well, for the next slide is you can see what was approved in DSA and contract awards and what's in design and what's in scope review. So what's the scope review means we haven't we're talking with architects about how to move forward. This is about the windows in 3 different schools. Those are historical windows, and there is a cheap version of them and there's a more expensive version of them that preserves the architectural idiosyncrasies of those windows and also preserves their historical value. So we're weighing in specific locations as to where we would use the aluminum windows versus wood windows that were there originally. So that's the scope review process. So if you go a little bit up, you will see that we have Adams MPR renovation. That one is actually approved because it was they have a dividing. There was a structural issue within their MPR, so that was resolved by the DSA. So it was, our design was approved, and that's scheduled for summer 2023. So we have Franklin covered walkway replacement. That contract was awarded, and we have that starting this summer. And Dos Pueblos electrical infrastructure, again this summer. And for San Marcos High School, we have new classrooms that are in design also this summer, hopefully. It all depends on, when it's approved by the DSA. And that's the update. That's the update. So next slide, please. These are actually pending. The rest of these, the list that we presented, these are pending projects. Pending, basically, they are not moving forward yet, but they will be. So we still have to prioritize them and coordinate them with principals and coordinate them with all the stakeholders in the board. So that's the next slide, please. And that's continuing on the same. Next slide. So we have a little financial update here for where we are with our bond funds. When you look at the table, you will see what was originally budgeted and what's left over. So we have 74 million left over for Measure J and Measure I together, and state facility fund, which is $4 million. Measure I, we have 35 million left. And Measure J, we have 34,814,000 left. So we have to, moving forward, we have to actually prioritize the funds and figure out, which projects to do first. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Veridian. Do we have any comments on this item?
No public comments request.
Okay, board members, any questions or concerns? Ms. Ford?
Thanks so much. Well, first of all, I do not find facilities boring. I think any teacher and administrator doesn't either. They love knowing that things will be improved at their sites. And of course, our community is an old community and we have lots of needs. I will say, though, that since I was elected to the board in 2018, I believe we've been talking about windows at Santa Barbara High School. And I'd love to just put forward that my understanding is that we're very close to having some sort of a presentation by KBC to the board about the costs and a comparison. Is that true?
I can look into that and let you know.
Okay, great. I just think it would be wonderful to have some completion dates or at least some work dates in mind with regard to the windows.
Yeah, we can make that happen.
Thank you.
At least for an update portion.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Then now we will go to item 3, the solar projects update.
Good evening, President Munoz, board members, and Dr. Maldonado. So I'm Desmond Ho. I am also project manager for the solar construction. So next slide, please. So in tonight's presentation, I'm going to give a brief construction status, a understanding of the summer construction schedule, and an overview of the contingency fund status. Next slide, please. So I've broken down the construction status into 5 different categories. On the very left, we have the pre-construction electrical work. This is laying down wire, conduits, and any sort of infrastructure that is needed prior to the actual construction of the solar panel array. Next, we have the construction phase, which is actually putting down the beams and the solar array panels, and also the battery storage if the site has it. And then the middle column, we have the inspection and tie-in, and this is inspection to ensure that the project was built to specification, and then also tie-in. That means tying in the solar grid to the actual Southern California Edison grid. The fourth column is the permit to operate. This is just SoCal Edison giving us the permit to actually use the power. And then finally, commissioning and monitoring, which tells us that these things are working properly. And then the monitoring software will allow us to see how much power we're actually generating with each site. So on the very left column, the pre-construction electrical work, right now, Dos Pueblos, La Cumbre, San Marcos, Santa Barbara High School, Roosevelt Elementary, and also the district's office is under this category. Under construction, we have La Cuesta, Monroe, Goleta Valley Junior, Franklin, and Santa Barbara Junior High School. We'll kind of put a little tilde there because the construction is actually complete. However, the contractors broke some irrigation lines, so they are repairing that so they can have a grass field. In the inspection and tie-in, we have Adams, Cleveland, Goleta Valley Junior, La Colina, and Santa Barbara Junior. So these are all either awaiting inspection or awaiting tie-in. And all the sites are awaiting a permit to operate, as all the other sections have to be completed before they provide us with that PTO. And then we are anticipating that late summer for Adams, Cleveland, La Colina, and Santa Barbara Junior High School, we will have the commissioning and monitoring. Overall, the entire project, they are anticipating that all the panels are going to be done by December 1st. And I'm going to push them really, really hard to maintain that. Next slide, please. So we have a very, very busy summer construction schedule. So the day after school ends, Dos Pueblos, Santa Barbara High School junior lot, and also San Marcos High School will start having construction go in. Right now, all 3 sites are having pre-installation electrical work that we talked about earlier. And so you'll notice that the Santa Barbara High School, there are 2 lots and they are staggered. The reason for that is because of our parking MOU with the Santa Barbara Bowl. In order to provide the parking spaces, we've had to stagger the construction at Santa Barbara High School. So the junior lot will go first, and then it'll be followed by the senior lot, so that we can still providing the parking spaces. We also have Roosevelt starting August 5th. However, I have been working with the contractors as well as the site principal to ensure that, to try to figure out if we can move that into July. The goal of this is to have most of the things completed by the time school starts, as Roosevelt is a very, access is very limited at that site. So we're trying to minimize disruption as little as possible. We also have La Cumbre, that is to be determined because there's a discussion about relocation. The contractors have given us a very, very high cost of $368,000 minimum. So I've been working with them to figure out why this cost is so high and kind of to figure out a path forward. And then finally, we have our district office. The La Cuesta lot is already built, but the district office in the back where maintenance and operations are, the retaining wall construction needs to happen, which the board approved in the last meeting. And then La Cuesta is going to need a transformer upgrade, which we are trying to schedule for late this summer as well. And then next slide, please. And then this is our contingency fund that was built into the power purchase agreement. So there's a $1.198 million contingency fund for any sort of unforeseen issues or change orders. So far you've seen that we've had to dip into it in two already approved change orders, if you will, at Franklin Elementary because they wanted to move the panels. And then also Santa Barbara High School because we needed to stagger the construction. So there's increased costs with that. And then finally, you'll see the $305,000 at the district office. That is going to be the work that's needed for the transformer upgrade and all the switch gears and things that are needed. So that's going to be happening later on this summer. So we have spent $336,000 of the change or the contingency fund, and we still have $861,000 left over. So with that, that's the end of my presentation. I'm happy to take any questions that you may have.
Thank you for the presentation, but can you put that last slide up? I'm just wondering if if on the district office where we say 305, is that a negative 283, 149? Is that just a?
Yes, so this is a contingency fund where they kind of just put money into each slot. It's not dictated exactly as such. It's more of a fluid, so they can move funds from site to site accordingly. So it's just a 1.198, and they just allocate it to each site, almost like a, let's just put it here and then we'll see what happens kind of thing.
Well, yeah, no, so what does that mean in terms of, so that meant that you approved like 21 and you needed to increase it for 305, by 305, and so it made that particular pot negative? Is that what that means, or explain what that means?
The way that this contingency fund is structured, it's more like a debit account. So NG, our solar provider, has this money in their pot, and then when we do a change order, they take it out, and then at the very end of the construction, they pay us the remainder. Okay. So we don't actually technically have this money, but they hold on to it, and then they take out as we need for contingencies, and then at the very end, that's the amount that we get back. So as of right now, we get that $869,000 back after this project is done, assuming nothing else pops up.
Okay. But I think you know where I'm going with, negative. When it's saying negative, I know that we have an abundance amount, and I understand the process, but I'm just trying to see where, when we do a change order, does that reduce the amount of money we're going to get back because we are overspent for whatever the reasons are?
I think it's one contingency fund for all of the solar projects. Okay. So it's just, they've allocated it based on each of the projects, but of course the asphalt problem in the back, all that is more costly than what we anticipated. But in the end, there's still 800 and whatever that number was, available. So it's built into the entire solar project.
Right. Okay. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that it also is an indicator that there was overspent because it was time, but that in the end, that's how we're doing that. This particular project was overspent, but it doesn't make a negative bottom line.
Correct.
Just that's good to know, because then we're understanding whether it's something we need to approve or look at because of the cost. I think you said that, Desmond, too, like why okay, so thank you. I just want to make sure those were correlating.
Okay, Ms. Capps. This is a good thing that just saves me an email. I mentioned this to Dr. Maldonado, but there's interest on behalf of a couple members in the environmental community as they drive around and they see these new solar of, I've been asked, when's the ribbon cutting? When can we show our support? And I don't mean to put that on you on top of all this other stuff, just to express that I'd be willing to help. And I think that the community this summer at some point would be happy to be invited to something where we can actually celebrate such a major transformation.
Absolutely. I believe so. I absolutely agree with that as well. As soon as I have an idea of when we can have the tie-in done and the commissioning, and we can have I believe we can have a ribbon cutting ceremony, because it is a monumentous finally getting it done. Yeah.
Excellent. And there's folks to help, myself included. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, now we will go to the board update on the LCAP process.
Next steps as we move forward in the development of the LCAP 22-23. Since we last, next slide, please. Since we last discussed the LCAP updates, we have continued the process of gathering and analyzing data. We've continued to meet with all of our educational partners, sharing information and receiving their recommendations. Our community survey closed this morning with a combined number of Spanish and English responses totaling 2,476. Those were multiple choice and short answer responses. So we are currently in the process of putting those into a visual representation that will be easy to see how that data is represented. We've held 2 parent advisory committees out of 3, but we added a 4th meeting on May 31st to the calendar with invitations sent. Additionally, specific information that was requested at that meeting is being sent to parents so that they will have the chance to mull that over and then be more informed to respond at our next meeting. And we also met with the district DLAC and added an additional meeting on June 9th in order to allow for more discussion and input surrounding parent requests in specific areas. So again, giving them specific information that was requested so that they can feel more informed in the discussion. Next slide, please. And again, our educational partners include high school students, staff, teachers, administrators, parents, guardians, community members, DLAC, PAC, CPAC, and union leaders. The LCAP fund does, the LCAP does fund early childhood, so preschool, TK through all the way through high school and adult programs. And the survey specifically asked for responses in the identification of so parents or folks taking the survey would actually be indicating where their students were, or if they were students, what grades they were in. Next slide, please. This graphic is inclusive of the 4 parent advisory committee meetings, including the new date of May 31st. Next slide, please. And lastly, these are just a recap of the dates we discussed before. You board members will have a draft in its entirety on June 7th, and all educational partner groups will have that on June 10th. The LCAP public hearing is the 14th, and the date we're submitting for your approval and then to the county is June 28th. Any questions or any information I can provide?
There was a comment, a public comment request, but I don't see that Ms. DeWitt, I think she's left, so we're fine. No comments.
Okay, board members, Ms. Ford?
Thanks. Could you put that last slide back up, please? I was just wondering, on step number 3 at the public hearing, do you intend to actually make a public presentation about the LCAP?
Yes,
Okay, great.
yes,
But the board will have gotten it a week earlier.
correct.
Thank you so much. That's it.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. Oh, yes.
I just want to thank
Chris.
Ms. Harvey for all the work that she's been doing as the Director of Student Outcomes and School Performance. She has the honor of doing all the state compliance, federal compliance, and get on everyone's case about all those things that we need to stay legal. But it's not a sexy job, but we want to just thank you for how beautifully you do it and staying so late tonight to give us this report. Thank you, Heidi.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Harvey. Okay, so with that, we will go to coming events. We have our, let's see, graduate award ceremonies and promotions coming up that are listed in the minutes. And anyone has anything additional to add? Oh, yes, Dr. Maldonado?
I do want to announce, and we'll be sending out a note tomorrow. Next Tuesday, May 31st, we will be hosting a webinar I'm calling it a webinar for lack of a better word right now, apologies, to discuss universal access. We know that there's many questions that have come to the board and others. We will engage with community. There'll be a note going out about that. We will have some principals, teachers and students talking about that and explaining what is it, why are we doing it, and how we expect to put it in place if we do move forward with that. But we just want to make sure we get everyone to know that this is coming.
Oh, Mr. Kelly?
Yeah, and just to follow up to that, how is the board going to be involved in that process?
We will bring a report to the board on June 14th following that event. There are board members can participate as listeners to because it's going to be over Zoom. It's not going to be in person.
Okay, and any future agenda items at this time? Ms. Ford?
Sorry, thanks. We should clarify that there's a special board meeting on Thursday. Again?
Yes, we're going to have a special board meeting this Thursday at 5:30 for closed session.
Did we do it to 5:31 or did we get back to the 5:26? Because I thought there was some correspondence between 5:31. No, I know, but there was an email about moving it to 5:31. So are we clear, or that's 5:26?
Right. First, we had said yesterday, we had said to have it on Tuesday, 5:31. Yeah, May 31st. And then we moved it to this Thursday at 5:30. I know. Right. And we could certainly discuss that right now. Yeah. I'm sorry?
Yeah. What was the reasoning behind the change?
To have, I'm sorry, Adriana? Oh, to have it this Thursday versus Tuesday?
Yes.
Right. I felt that it would be helpful to have it sooner than later, to give direction to the superintendent. But certainly we could leave it to Tuesday, the 31st, if everyone's available.
I just feel as though a board member had already let everybody know that she'd be traveling, and it would be best to have all 5 of us if possible. In my opinion.
Yeah, definitely all 5 of us need to be there. So we can look at another date if we can't all be there on whatever date we settle on. So
Right, okay.
can we get back with you or?
I will remind, not that it matters, time-wise, we do have the webinar scheduled to begin at 6:30
Right.
on 5/31. So if the board would consider just starting a little bit sooner so that we can handle both items on the same day, I just want to offer that. Or we can change our event for universal access as well.
No, I wouldn't change that.
Yeah.
That's at 6:30? What about 5 o'clock on the 31st?
Sure, 5 o'clock or
Is that enough?
4:30 is fine too.
Okay.
I think it was
5 o'clock.
originally 4:30.
Let's do 4:30 then,
I'll be a little late, but yeah,
or 5 o'clock.
5
Is that
o'clock.
enough time
We
for
could
you,
do
Dr.
5
Maldonado?
o'clock.
5 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so 5 o'clock on the 31st.
Yes.
Great.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next board, well, we're going to have the closed session on Tuesday, the 31st, as we just said, at 5 PM. And then the next regular board meeting will be on Tuesday, June 14th, at 5:30 for open session. And with that, we will go ahead and adjourn at 9:39 PM. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.